So it's we're chilling. It's a Friday night. There's a bunch of news, but the big story that just seems to dominate the news headline is that some blowhard guy yells at Ocasio-Cortez, who we love, by the way, that she's a big booty Latina. And this dominates the news cycle, and that's all anybody's going to talk about. And surprisingly, the story actually has still dominated the news cycle today because AOC, she made a video where I guess she called her booty juicy or something.
She sure did.
Oh, man. It's just,
Cringe.
this is, yeah, because no one said that. And it's like, Freudian slip? What are you talking about? But here's the thing that I didn't realize. I didn't realize that it was in response to that she called January 6th essentially an inside job. So this is intriguing. And we're going to be talking with Alex Stein, the man himself who said that AOC was a big booty Latina, to talk about that. But also, I've mentioned that, Alex, you do a bunch of culture jamming stuff, which is actually particularly effective in terms of, culture jamming, getting a message out, making points and things like that. So it's a Friday night. We're going to be chilling. We're just going to talk about all that stuff. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com, become a member. We've got a really awesome lineup from this week. I just got to recommend, go if you click the members only section at timcast.com, the Dave Landau member podcast was just so insanely funny. I keep shouting out, that man is a genius. We had him and Jamie Kilstein, and we were laughing relentlessly. It was just really, really good. If you want to support our work, sign up at timcast.com, but check out the members only section. We're going to be reformatting the website. We were delayed on the announcement for like the 80th week in a row, but it's coming. Don't worry. Developments are underway, and we are going to be kind of like shuffling around and renaming things so it's easier for you to find. We're probably going to call the After Hours show like After Hours Uncensored or something like that so you can more easily find it. And don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Without further ado, Mr. Alex Stein.
Primetime 99, Alex Stein on the grind all the time, the king of culture jamming. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here, Tim. I'm a big fan. And let's just say this, though. I have to, get a little mad at you because I saw a 22-minute video where you got a little mad at me, which is fair. That's kind of part of it. I do want to evoke some sort of emotional response. And I did have Tim, a little emotionally triggered, which I liked. But now you're realizing it's what I did by calling AOC a big booty Latina that she had to come out after 3 hours in the Capitol voting on bills. The first thing she did when she came out, of course, she had to say the Capitol Police, didn't do their job, and it was an inside job, and they let people in.
Introduce yourself for those who aren't familiar with you and your work.
Okay, guys, like I said, I'm Alex Stein. I'm a Blaze TV contributor. I got a show coming out in September, and basically what I do is I like to highlight the most absurd parts of our culture and jam it in people's faces because we live in a society of political correctness where it's almost impossible to wake people up because I say this term a lot. It's called trauma-based mind control. Everybody's under basically mass formation hypnosis. So the only way, in my opinion, to actually wake people up is to show them how absurd the narrative is. It's like, I think a perfect example is Leah Thomas. You just pulled it up that Leah Thomas is nominated for NCAA Woman of the Year. But the fact is, Leah was a man at one point and swam on the men's team for 3 years, ranked 427th, then is able to take gender hormone therapy and swim against the women and win multiple NCAA championships. So for me, I think that is very absurd, and I think I feel most bad. I don't know if that's the proper English grammar, but I feel the worst for the 17 other swimmers that had to compete against Leah, who still has male genitalia, even though she's a woman, and still, I believe, likes women.
There's a lot that I want to talk about there, too, because I had a tweet about are UFC fighters allowed to take drugs to reduce their weight so they can get into lower weight brackets, which gives them an advantage.
Yeah.
We'll get into all that stuff. So thanks for joining, Alex. It's going to be a blast.
Thank you.
We got Mary Morgan as well.
I'm back once again. Hello, my name is Mary. I co-host Pop Culture Crisis on YouTube. We do a live show where we cover celebrities, movies, all the entertainment news and lighthearted content that you might not hear about on IRL. And when you super chat us, you get to shoot money at us. It's fun.
That's great.
It's true. Ian Crossland here, iancrossland.net. I was actually on Pop Culture Crisis today. It was hot.
Or we were joined by someone who looks very much like you.
Which was me. You're right. You're wrong. And also, if you haven't seen the Cass Castle vlog, today's the day. If you want to go back and see who I really am, if you don't believe me, check it out. It's hot. Let's pass it on to Lydia.
Yeah.
Sounds awesome. I'm very excited to be joining Alex Stein this prime time on a Friday night. We're going to take it super easy, talk about some fun stuff, and hear what Alex has been up to. I'm stoked.
So people have started posting ghost emojis in the chat.
That's for Mary.
you.
I guess I should have gotten the NAD earlier,
Ghost
huh?
gay girl.
What I think it might be also the lurking in the attic thing.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Great episode.
it was one time. Okay.
Here goes
All right,
now.
let's talk about this first story. And y'all have probably seen it. AOC calls out Capitol Police after troll calls her big booty Latina on the Hill steps. So that was it. That was you who called her your favorite big booty Latina, and you were very happy and
An
smiling
honor.
and saying you loved her and all that stuff. She got mad, and so I'll just clarify right away. I knew that AOC made the statement about Capitol Police and the insurrection implying it was an inside job, that there were police inside opening the doors. I just didn't realize that she was making a point about you specifically. And so I will walk back my statement. What I said earlier today was that, for one, I think your culture jamming is fantastic. We've talked about how we want to do culture jamming more as a marketing tool and also to affect change, and that you've done a particularly good job of that. I don't think that calling AOC a big booty Latina solved or did anything. I was wrong. It actually got her to come out and issue a prominent statement that January 6th was that police officers in the building opened the door. That would not have happened were it not for something to me seemed completely inane. And here we are. I'm flabbergasted.
And you should be, and it is completely inane. And let me tell you something. I am mentally insane. Like I said, I call myself primetime because I am insane. And this is the thing, though, Tim. Even though I am an imbecile and an idiot, I want to say that I actually planned this. I talked about this earlier. AOC constantly says that she's a victim of sexualization. She says that people on the right do not like her because they want to date her. There was a picture of her boyfriend, now fiance, in Miami with his feet, and everybody said, "Ooh, look at her gross feet." And she, of course, my point being is, for her, it's all about like image and looks, and that's why people don't like her. So my thought was, if I run into Ilhan Omar, I'm going to say, "I think you married your brother." Is that what happened? I had stuff, for each congresswoman of the squad, but for AOC, I said, instead of, like, I called out Adam Kinzinger and I called him, a traitor and a D-bag. But my point being is, when you call people out and you're kind of like aggressive, that doesn't work. That's not culture jamming. That's like being rude. So in my mind, I said, you know what? I'm going to give AOC what she wants. I'm going to bait her and I'm going to sexualize her. And actually, I called this on Sarah Gonzalez's show on The Blaze before. I said I'm going to call her Big Booty Latina, but I did it on purpose. So the reason why, I thought I would go to city council meetings at the very beginning, of the COVID pandemic, and I would talk seriously, and they wouldn't pay attention. They would look at me like I was an idiot, like a conspiracy, theorist, which I am, a tinfoil hat wearing. But my point being is, you couldn't evoke a response. And then one of the first meetings is we have Mayor Johnson. He's a nice guy, and I said, they're pushing the vaccine real hard. I said, you should offer free vaccines in the gay neighborhood. You should call it Eric Johnson's Free Johnson & Johnson, because the gay community will love the double entendre. And since you're the first openly gay mayor of Dallas, they'll really love it. He's not. He's married with kids. And he was shook. He was just, his face like a pumpkin. He was just like, what? And that's when I kind of realized, all right, I have to troll these people. And my comedic hero is Andy Kaufman. And what he did brilliantly is he blended the line of reality and fiction so you couldn't tell. So my point being, I was long-winded, with AOC, I said, I'm going to try to get an emotional response by hitting on her, but I want her to think I'm serious. I want her to think I actually like her. And then in her tweet, when I said, you're a big booty Latina, she actually ended up coming back and trying to take some sort of selfie with me. So she liked the compliments. I did it in front of her fiance, who I totally cussed.
She said,
him.
"Let's get a selfie" or something like that.
Yes, that's exactly what she said.
And then she gave a peace sign.
And she did. But yet, the narrative after was that she wanted to deck me, which is obviously provably false.
Well, she tweeted about it and deleted it. Mm-hmm. Because what was the first thing she tweeted?
Well, she came out. Her staffer came out after it happened because they're like, "Who is this guy?" And they came and took this picture right in front of my face. I said, "I'm Alex Stein. I'm on the Blaze. Here's my business card. I'm not trying to hide." And then, of course, they didn't like that. And then when they figured out who I was, that I'm this right-wing troll, that, and I'll call myself a troll, I'm a goblin, I'm whatever adjective you want to call me, I agree with it. My point being is when I came out and I admitted who I was, that's when she was triggered. She just couldn't stand it that some right-wing guy, got her, and she didn't want to get got. So, of course, her ego was just totally shattered. So she had to create this new narrative that I said juicy or that I said ass, which I never said. The video proves that. And my point being in all of this is I laid out a trap, and I'm not, like I said, I'm an idiot, but I knew I was going to evoke emotional response to him, but I had no idea that it would be this big of a response, that she would make so many Instagram videos, that she'd make a post asking people questions about it, and then
she has to. So I stand corrected. My thought was like, you did this thing, and what was the point? I understand your point now, and in fact, it triggered AOC to call out the police in the Capitol and directly implicate the 1-6 committee investigation, literally saying they're not investigating this. I don't feel safe. And wow, you put those pieces together and I don't think you expected her to indict the 1-6 committee in response to you trolling her on, like, she's notorious for saying people want to date her and things like that.
And that's why I said that, though.
Right. I stand corrected. And so the reason that we're seeing her response is because she has to bury her emotional reaction. She's probably getting a ton of heat from Democrats over what she said about the police in January 6th. And so she's leaning as heavily into the I was harassed thing as possible to dominate news coverage, to shut down the 1-6 conversation.
And she's right. I mean, I did cross the line a little bit. Of course, I hit on her. But at the same time, I was very nice. You know what I mean? I don't care what you say. Yeah, I'm laughing. I'm nice. I'm saying you're a big booty Latina. I think you're sexy. Even though you want to, abort and kill babies, I still love you, And that was my whole point, is I try to actually be nice, because the people on the left, Marjorie Taylor Greene, friend of mine, she's great. She says on the Capitol steps, she'll get harassed. They call her the B word, the C word, all this mean stuff. That doesn't have the same effect. Like, if you start doing that, a politician's going to put their head down and go about their business. But as soon as you try to get them in a trap, you're either nice to them by being, trolling them. That's how we win the culture war, is by evoking a response.
So we've been.
What?
I thought Mary was going to say something. Yeah, I thought you said
like,
something. Look at something.
Yeah.
Well, I want to know what culture jamming means.
Okay, so culture jamming is where you take the most absurd parts of our culture and you jam it in people's face to bring awareness, because even people that agree with the mainstream narrative, they don't even know what the mainstream narrative is. Like one video. Oh, go ahead.
No.
Let me just say this. So, like, one thing, Beto O'Rourke's running for governor of Texas, and so one of my buddies, Cassidy Campbell, has a big YouTube channel. I make all kinds of content, but we do a thing where we'll go like fake door knocking or really door knocking, and we'll talk about Beto O'Rourke's like real thing, how he wants to give, gender reassignment surgery to 7-year-old kids. And even people that are like, as leftist as it gets, they're kind of like, I don't know if a 7-year-old should be on that, So
what are you, transphobic?
Oh, no, I'm actually trans. I'm gender fluid. I'm Alexandria half the time. You'll see, you can pull it up. Me, Alexandria Stein in a bathing suit. Yeah, we should pull it up. But my point being, the culture jamming, it's just exposing the craziest aspects of our culture.
Here's a really good example. James O'Keefe went, I don't know if he personally did, but Veritas, I think it might have been Veritas, or maybe it was actually just James. They went door to door and they asked people if they said, we're a group that supports gun control and we don't like people to having guns, it's dangerous. Do you agree? And they were like, yes, of course. And they said, we would love it if you would put this sign in your lawn saying proud gun-free home. And the people went, no, I'm not doing that. And they're like, well, why not? And like, because you're like inviting people to rob you. And then they go, it sounds like you're saying you need guns. No, I don't want. That is culture jamming. Mm-hmm. Those kind of stunts that expose and, as you said, like jam it in their face. But it's just like exposing the absurdities of things that are happening.
It's like satire.
So yeah, it's like real. It's activism in a sense. It's making a point. You can go to someone and you can be super liminal. Hey, X, I will tell you thing. We need guns to stay safe. We have those rights, and people are going to argue with you about it. But you go to them and get them to tell you, we will not let people know we don't like guns. That's a secret. And you're like, I wonder about that, right?
So you didn't know that she was going to speak on 1-6 when you did that, but what were you hoping would happen?
Well, I just hope I got a response, just any sort
Anything?
of response. Yeah, I didn't know that she was going to actually take my video and download it and reshare it. She literally screen recorded it and reshared it. I couldn't believe that. It's got millions of hits on her Twitter.
I just got to say, I feel like you slipped on a banana peel, but pulled off a perfect backflip from it.
Well, 100%.
Magical.
But see, that's the thing. It's you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott.
Yes.
So my point being is you have to actually, go out there and try this. Like, it could have been a dud, of course. But when you're actually on the grind, and this is for people watching at home, I just want to say you have to go try, and I'm a try hard, for lack of a better word. And it worked. Not every time does it work, but this one was gangbusters.
It made me think of Kavanaugh, who recently had been harassed by people standing outside a restaurant while he was trying to eat a steak. Mm-hmm. And that was the first thing I thought. I was like, oh, okay. So this is kind of like, I don't know if he's putting it back in someone's, or at least bringing it. The thing about the Kavanaugh thing was it wasn't televised, so there's no video evidence of it. We heard about it under the rug. But she made a statement, Alex, after you did that. Alex, hey, that's pretty cool. Yeah. We should do a talk show.
A&A.
And that people aren't the government's not designed to protect people. And I think that's kind of true. Like that they have, like you were saying, they get harassed often walking up the steps to work. We know where they are. We know where they're centralized, what building they're in. Like that's not secure for people to be making laws that are angering people or could potentially anger a lot of people.
Well, she said that AOC tweeted that we need to make these people uncomfortable. That was exactly her exact words.
Yep.
So that's what I was trying to do. I wanted to make her uncomfortable. Now, I didn't want to cross the line. I didn't want to say like the P word or ass. I didn't say ass, but I wanted to take it to the limit, and that's what I like to do. I like to tiptoe the line of reality and fiction because I wanted her to actually think that I'm attracted to her. And to be honest, AOC's politics are terrible, but she is very attractive. I have to give her that. I'm telling you, she's got a very petite derriere. It's not big and booty. It's actually pretty nice. And
pert?
Pert, you know.
Oh my gosh, how old are you?
Pert Plus is my shampoo, so I see that word a lot.
I don't agree. I can understand why though. People would say that. To me, I think she's rather horsey.
When she opens her mouth, but when her mouth is closed, she looks
She's
okay.
very cute, yeah. Sure.
I'm not very picky, Tim. I mean, come on, no.
She's got a pulse and she's breathing, right?
Yeah, well, not even that. I'm just saying, she is. She's in good shape. I think she checks a lot of the boxes, and I can see why she actually got in her position. She's 32 years old. She's one of the most popular congresswomen. But she actually, in her Netflix documentary, she basically got casted for that. It's basically almost like a casting call. And so I can see why she got picked, almost like you get picked for a reality show or something. She has the look, she has the, she's articulate, even though what she's saying is, garbage. There's a reason why she's successful, because she actually is easy on the eyes.
What's the Netflix doc? I haven't heard of this yet.
It was Becoming AOC, I believe is the name of it. And it was
Becoming AOC.
Something like that. We'll Google it real quick. I forget the name, but in that it talks about how, multiple people for her district, submitted for, basically to get the nomination, and she dominated. But see, this is another thing we're not talking about. In her own district, a guy that owns a bodega was defending his bodega and ended up stabbing somebody to death that was getting robbed. And he had a $500,000 bond, and they lowered it to $250,000. So people in New York, you can rub feces on somebody and get out of jail within 24 hours. But if you defend your bodega, you're going to get charged with manslaughter, and you're not even going to be able to get out of jail. So the hypocrisy in her own district, it's literally rotting like the Big Apple. It's the rotting apple right now. And she's all worried about me saying big booty Latina. So her priorities are absolutely screwed up.
The documentary is called Knock Down the House.
Knock Down the House.
It's from 2019. I think the points about her not feeling safe are interesting because, one, I'm hoping that like when she was talking about 1-6, she was like clapping her hands, and she looked like terrified, like just completely nervous wreck. I imagine someone in Capitol would feel like that these days with this heightened sense of security, with the economy, inflation and things like that. And I want to help, but also it's not cool to tell people to go make politicians uncomfortable. I mean, maybe. Yeah, that's a very vague thing to tell people.
I don't know. I think AOC might be right, but she's just a hypocrite.
And I want to say this. The only reason I disagree with you is because this is part of the left's narrative. They have to be a victim. Victimhood is their favorite thing. Because if you play the victim, then they're not responsible for your actions. And it's like, oh, well, if you're poor, you can steal. So it's kind of their victimhood mentality. And AOC, she plays the victim better than anybody in Congress. Yet, she's super successful. She's really young. She's been afforded every opportunity possible in life. But she can, if you give her an inch, she's going to take a mile of victimhood.
But this is why she's so popular among the millennial left. She exemplifies them, given every opportunity, privileged, and then complaining about it. Living one of the most comfortable lives in the world and complaining about it.
Well, she talks a lot about how she came from humble beginnings and she used to be a waitress and blah, blah, blah.
Bartender.
Yeah, but
ask why there are people who are traveling thousands of miles, crawling through desert to come here to work in a industrial setting or in a chicken factory. And she was a waitress living in, New York or whatever.
In Manhattan, in Union Square, one of the nicest neighborhoods in New York.
Oh, but she, at that famous Union Square restaurant, right?
Yeah, and so she probably did really well because bartenders actually do pretty good. But it's funny because you make a point, and we talk about the border. Over 108,000 drug overdose deaths this year. The issue that we're having with fentanyl, people are literally dying, young kids. The opioid epidemic is one of the worst problems that we're facing. And politicians, and this is the problem that I have with the conservative side, forget about the $80 billion we're giving to Ukraine. Forget about Dan Crenshaw voting for service members that aren't vaccinated to get kicked out of the military. It doesn't matter if you have an R or a D next to your name. I want them to have an A next to their name for America. And that's the problem, is that we have all of these politicians that are run by multinational corporations. Businesses are deciding really what's happening in the world. So it doesn't matter if you're right or left because they do not care about the border between Texas and Mexico, yet they're giving $80 billion to defend the border between Russia and Ukraine. And for me, that mostly makes me sick because, listen, I love the gay community, I love the trans community, but if you're in the Ukraine, you cannot, gay marriage is illegal. If you're transgender in the Ukraine and you try to go to Poland, they give you a gun and they say, get back on the front line. So the country that we're defending the most, with a huge majority of our money, does not even have the same culture that we have here in America.
And during Pride Month, no less, they were giving all this money.
I saw, and I went to the New York City Pride, and I saw more Ukrainian flags than I saw rainbow. Well, I saw more rainbow flags, but I'm just saying I saw a lot of Ukrainian flags.
In all seriousness, though, there could have been that quid pro quo. There could have been Joe Biden saying, you guys got to ease up on the LGBTQ stuff. We're going to fund you, but let's...
Tim, this is what makes me so mad. I don't care. All day long, Hunter Biden can smoke crack all day long. No, serious. I'm dead serious. As a matter of fact, I think that makes him endearing because everybody knows somebody that's a drug addict.
Yeah,
what
true.
we don't talk about, we don't talk about his business dealings in China. We don't talk about the quid pro quo Joe talking about giving $1 billion, making sure they had the right people in power in the Ukraine. And now we're fighting a proxy war, fighting a war by proxy, killing young people over what? Over decisions made by a crackhead president, by the president's crackhead son. That gets no media attention. But they're going to give you the prostitutes all day long. They're going to give you the crack pipe all day long. Like you said,
we talk about the quid pro quo stuff. Like I don't shut up about it.
No, but what I'm saying is your frustration about, hey, I'm so mad that he's the big booty Latina is a head story because the real story is that January 6th the Capitol Police let people in, and that's obvious because people couldn't get in. They didn't have a key to get into the door. But it's the same thing.
The crazy thing is there's that video going viral right now where the window is smashed out. They still can't get in because it's mag locked. And then these guys look up at someone and point, and then someone releases the maglock. And that could have been an insurrectionist, whatever you want to call them. Maybe someone broke in, found the maglock release, and they said, press it. Or maybe it was a cop, because we did see other cops open the door directly. We saw other cops taking selfies. So I'm with AOC on that one. I want the investigation, too.
Now, 1,000% we want the investigation.
Obviously, she thinks the outcome will be different from what the right thinks it will be, but I don't think that's relevant. I think the question is what happened.
And we look at January 6th, obviously there's some people, one of my very good friends, Luke Coffey, he has a GoFundMe. He's actually being charged with assaulting a police officer. He's actually kind of well known. He's the crutch guy. And he held a crutch. He found a crutch on the ground and he kind of, put it against the riot shields. And now he's being charged with assaulting a cop. And let me tell you something. The guy's a 37-year-old, young, nice kid that, felt, that there was an injustice, even though it was the most...
37-year-old young kid?
I'm just saying he's a young...
Middle-aged man.
Well, middle-aged man. But I'm just saying
37.
he's not built for... Excuse me, he's not built for federal prison, is my point being. I think he would be young for prison. But it was the most fair election, the best election ever. Joe Biden got 81 million votes. I just want to put that on record. My point being, there is people there that loved our country very much. And now they're being labeled as a domestic terrorist. They're saying it's worse than 9/11. And for me, I look back at our government's track record, the same people that said we had weapons of mass destruction, which we didn't, are the same people that saying American citizens that love our country the most are terrorists. So the government's going to lie to you to create a narrative that's not true.
I'll tell you what I think. I think the people that rioted, I think the people that were fighting with cops, even pushing on the cops, that's bad. And there's got to be some accountability there.
That's fair.
But I think that when Trump gets in office in 2024, well, in 2025, blanket pardon across the board.
Oh, he should. But you think Trump will beat DeSantis?
I don't know. But I'm saying, like, I'm not saying that will happen. I'm just saying if Trump or DeSantis gets in, I think without condemning, actually, no, with a little condemnation, but with recognizing the threat this country faces through the massive divide, I think you've got to get these people out.
Yeah.
You've talked about it before.
Shays
with
Rebellion.
Shays Rebellion.
Yeah, John Hancock pardoned a bunch of the farmers that had rebelled because they were being overtaxed. They didn't have the money. They were just back from the revolution, soldiers with their fortunes depleted. And then they were getting imprisoned because they didn't have the money still that they didn't have. And they just surrounded the courthouse, refused to let the people, the judges act. And there was jail sentences and stuff. And then Hancock came in and was like, no. We're forming a union. You're pardoned. Everyone's pardoned.
Well, let's talk about Trump because everybody loves Trump, and I love the Trump that calls little Marco Rubio. I love the Trump.
What's he going to say about DeSantis?
Oh, and I think Hancock didn't pardon. He pardoned everyone except for like 3 people or 2 people.
But my point being is, listen, Trump I think had 11 days in office where he could have pardoned some people. You look at Trump with Julian Assange, who the WikiLeaks basically gave him the 2016 election, yet he doesn't get a pardon. Kodak Black gets one. Not saying that Kodak Black, good rapper. Not saying he shouldn't get one, but I think Trump has a serious, priority issue.
I got to point this out. Never in my life growing up, as like in the 2000s into Occupy Wall Street and after, for several years after, did I think that at one point in my life I would be sitting across the table from a conservative, I would say, yes?
Yeah, well, I'm kind of down the middle, but yeah.
Suit-wearing guy arguing that the Republican president should have pardoned Julian Assange because 10 years ago, the left loved Assange. Mm-hmm. And now they leave him hanging out to dry. They leave him to rot.
Tim, you made your bones. Okay, you say what you're going to say real quick.
I was going to say Trump is the reason they're trying to extradite Julian Assange, too. I think Trump wanted Julian Assange because Julian knows things about the DNC, and Trump wanted that. And so now he's being handed off to Joe Biden, which is extremely dangerous. But anyway.
Well, let's talk about Occupy, because I know that was, a huge thing for you. Those people were very anti-establishment then. Those people were anti-banks. Now these people love Pfizer. They love banks. They love Halliburton. So it just shows you that these people are under what I call mass formation hypnosis. They don't even know whose side to be on.
I agree.
And this wasn't that long ago. Like you said, in 2008, when we had the financial crash, people were out there protesting for what I agree is I'm anti-establishment. I'm not right or left. I just don't like the establishment. I think that the system is just terrible. And the people in power, once they get in power, I talk about the multinational corporations. All they care about is their political action committee. They care about the money that they're getting donated. It's like you look at Apple, Apple freaking in China at their Foxconn factories. Instead of paying their employees more, they have suicide nets because so many employees are jumping off the roof. But instead of paying them a little more, they make stronger nets. They make bigger nets. So we have a priority issue because it's the globalization of America. And that's why I'm an American first guy, because I care about America. I want to actually put America in the forefront. But if you say you're a nationalist or if you have an American flag in your yard, that's a hate symbol.
You're right wing now.
Yeah, exactly.
You're conservative.
And I'm considered alt-right because I love America. And that's not how it should be. But they create a narrative that America is bad. Yet nearly 100,000 people, even more than that, illegally cross into our country every month. So go figure, if it's such a racist place, why does everyone want to immigrate here?
Man, you hit the nail on the head right there. I completely agree. I never really cared all that much for the left, the right, or that ideas. It was always just like the machine is broken. It is unjust. It is corrupt. It is manipulative. And so that is, for me, especially it starts with the media, because the media is lying to people and they just go along with it. So that's really what got me here. Early on in my career, I wasn't talking that much about Democrats or Republicans. It was the media and their lies. Well, as time goes on, you start to realize they're lying to benefit the Uniparty, which morphed into the Democrats when Trump took over. And then you get a narrative. The Democratic Party is the party of the establishment, wealthy elites. The media props them up. The Lincoln Project and the neocons joined the Democrats after Trump took over. Half the Republican Party is extremely bad. The other third is really bad. There's a small handful of them that are okay. For me, I'm like, Thomas Massey's cool. Rand Paul, I like. Marjorie Taylor Greene is great. And the rest of them, there's a few others that are doing a decently good job. But the machine itself is dominated by the Uniparty, and it's just corrupt. I don't care about how much taxes you want to take. That's ancillary. It's after the fact. We can have a conversation about that. For the time being, it's corrupt people lying, cheating, and stealing and destroying the country.
I wonder if it's the media is manipulating the politicians. I'm sure it's happening on some level, or if they're all colluding, or if the politicians are making the media act that way. But I think like Alexandria Cortez, she didn't ever mention. I've never heard her mention the 1-6 cops letting people in on 1-6. Like I've never heard her mention that till a couple days ago. And it's been 2 years of people in solitary. Did she not hear about it? Are they that insulated? Like that? It's hard to think that people could be so insulated that they don't see what I see, but I've spent a lot of my time looking at a lot of things from the outside. I think when you're in that DC environment, they may actually be very intentionally insulated.
No, Ian, I deserve all the credit. I broke her. I broke her. I created an emotional response.
She thinks that getting called a big booty Latina is the same gravity as 1-6.
100%. She thinks the cops, were basically, since they didn't arrest me, which they did. She complained 5 times. She said that in her own tweet. And the cops did come and they ID'd me. I gave them my ID. I said, am I under arrest? Am I being detained? They said no. And I was able to walk away. And her watching me walk away, I know made her so mad that she's like, I hate these Capitol Police. Oh my God, they let the rioters in. So That's what
You
happened.
made her throw a tantrum.
But what was interesting is that she must have known about it for a while.
Oh, come on, Ian. Everybody knows about this. And listen, she's the same person that said she was afraid of her life, yet she was a mile away. And at the same time, even if every single rioter went in, did they really think that they were going to be able to, even do any sort of legislation? Come on.
So this is a narrative that for some reason has even been difficult to permeate the right. When AOC said she was scared when they came and knocked on her door, she wasn't just not in the Capitol. She fabricated the story outright.
Ooh, a politician lied. What?
This is a tough one for
I
me
thought
to
she
wrap my
claimed
head
to
around.
be in one of the bathrooms, hiding in a bathroom
In her
stall.
office. Let me break this down for you because I will tell the story every chance I
yeah.
get. AOC did an Instagram video, it's about 45 minutes long, where she said she's in her office and she hears a knock, knock, knock. And she got scared thinking it's them. They've gotten here. What do I do? And they said, go hide in the bathroom. And I did. And the door opens and it's a police officer going, or it's a man going, where is she? Where is she? And she's like, she said she thought she was going to die. Turns out it was a police officer evacuating her. What she doesn't tell you, although she kind of does,
Is that she was in there pooping?
no, is
doesn't say
that
that.
happened, I believe, 1 full hour before the barricades were breached at the front of the building, meaning no one knew anyone was going to get into the Capitol.
Except Ray Epps. He knew.
Right. Well, AOC claimed she thought they had made it to her office. How does that make sense? Nobody was in the building. Nobody knew they were going to get in the building. And if AOC knew they were going to breach the building, why didn't she report it? Weird questions there, right? The media tried defending her, saying, yes, she wasn't in the Capitol. She was in her office, but there are tunnels that connect the Capitol to her office. That explains it. I had a guy from the Huffington Post tell me that I was wrong when I tweeted her story didn't make sense. And he DMs me, and then I pull up the timeline, and he responds in private DM going like, oh, you're right. When she claimed that she thought they got to her office and she was going to die, no one had even attempted to breach the Capitol building. She made the story up. It was like a full hour before the barricades even moved, something like that. And then they made their way to the front of the Capitol, but AOC had no idea what was going to happen. She fabricated the story after the fact, and people bought it, believed it, and they still do to this day.
I've been thinking lately, no matter how emotional I am about something, no matter how strongly I feel about something, it doesn't make it more or less right. Like, so crying, saying it's real doesn't make it more or less
manipulation.
real.
Yeah, you have to be emotional. And I don't want to get too conspiratorial, but it kind of sounds like, you remember how Larry Silverstein during 9/11, he usually has breakfast there, and he happened to be having a little doctor's appointment for his skin. I'm just saying, it's not a surprise that these people probably do have prior knowledge to stuff that's going to happen. And we talk about Ray Epps because I know you want to expose that, but literally he's on camera saying, we need to have an insurrection. We need to go inside. Yet, you look at the mainstream media, New York Times, Adam Kinzinger, if they're running cover for him,
They are running cover for him.
then you know what the truth is. You know that he's involved and they're protecting him. But let me say this real quick, because we know about the Mockingbird media. We know the government admits that they have literally intelligence in every radio, television, film, every form of media that we have. So it would be impossible for him to be this protected by the media if he wasn't in on it.
Well, it's
Well, hold
possible
on.
that he wasn't in on it and that they just don't know. It is
No,
possible. You're talking about probability in this instance.
But high
I
probability,
really doubt that.
Probability.
I think the first thing I say about Ray Epps is we just don't know. The second thing I'll say is what we do know is that he called for storming the Capitol, and he's not being criminally charged.
He's being protected.
He's being protected by the media and Adam Kinzinger defended him online. The question then becomes why? We have no evidence to explain what their motivation is. We can only surmise. At the very least, a plausible minimum non-conspiratorial response is Ray Epps may have been the first guy the feds went after because he was on the live stream saying it. They may have been looking at him right away. Made a deal with him immediately. It could have been the night before he's on a live stream telling people to storm the Capitol. Yep. I imagine this. Before anything happened, feds could have went right to him in the hotel and said, you're going to wear a wire. You're going to give us names and you work for us now as a CI. And that's why after the fact, you don't see him getting charged. Not that he's a federal agent, but that he may have been an informant after the fact. Now that's a minimum. Maybe there's something else beyond this. I just don't know. What I do know is it is very strange that they're putting people in solitary. They're charging them with seditious conspiracy, but the guy who's literally on camera telling people to do it, telling them how to do it, hasn't been charged.
Tim, MAGA granny. There's a grandma
Right.
in there with her little flag, and she's a hardened criminal. They actually think she's going to be able to overthrow the government.
The photo of the one with the little flag was from, I think, Madison. But there is currently a 69-year-old
Cancer patient.
cancer patient going
Yep.
to 60 days in jail.
And you know why the
for
judge?
trespassing.
And you know why the judge said that? Because the judge had let somebody else off, and they went on Fox News and didn't show remorse. But in the courtroom, they did show remorse. So because of somebody else's conviction, she got 60 days. 69-year-old cancer patient. So that's where we're at.
That's what I'm saying. So the funny thing is, and I'm glad AOC said the doors are open by police, because that is a huge, powerful political point. And I will say I am shocked that it is the result of you calling AOC a big booty Latina.
Well, we don't know. It's the result.
No,
just happens
it
to-
is. And reality is stranger than fiction, Tim. You have to realize that.
This is important because there are many people like the 69-year-old cancer patient.
Pamela Hemphill, by the way.
Miss Hemphill.
I don't know her specific story, but I really doubt this 69-year-old cancer patient was fighting with police officers. She's probably one of the people who saw the door opened and walked in very casually.
And she was on medical marijuana probably, so she didn't even know where she was at. I'm just kidding.
Because the police
Shout out
opened
to
the door.
medical marijuana.
In more than one location, police at the Capitol building opened the doors. There's even an instance where the police fanned people in, and a man was acquitted on all counts because he showed a video to the judge of him being motioned in by the officer. So he was acquitted for that. There was more than one door that was open. There was an instance where the cop said he respected what the people were doing, and there's instances where the cops took selfies with people. So now this woman is going to jail for 60 days after she was potentially invited in, or some people were. These people need to be pardoned across the board for this ridiculous misdemeanor stuff, and it is powerful, extremely powerful now that AOC has said the doors were opened. That clip needs to be. I don't know. Should I take that clip and should I buy TV
Can we
commercials
play
of
it?
it?
Let's
Yeah,
do it.
honestly. Hey, but let's not forget Ashley Babbitt, probably let in by a Capitol police officer, gets shot and murdered. And she was a veteran. She's somebody that loved our country so much, and she just gets thrown under the rug as some evil person. So not only did, these people get let in, but some people got murdered.
I think maybe we do a. I have to figure out how to do it. There's a lot of things I want to do that never happen, unfortunately, which I don't like bringing it. I don't like saying we want to do things if we don't have a means to actually get it done.
Yeah.
But I would love to see a commercial where it's like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says that there were cops and other people who opened the doors to let that in on January 6th and has called for an investigation. We agree with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Support the calls for an investigation into who opened the doors at the Capitol building.
Can you play that video?
Let me see if...
She's got to be regretting that
It's quite,
now.
Right.
or not. I think she's being very serious, and it is disturbing that
AOC
cops
Big Booty is the person that aggregates.
may have let people
AOC
in,
Big Booty popped up when I typed in AOC.
Yeah,
That's
it's just
funny.
and that that people would be in if police let people in, and those people that were let in are in solitary confinement. It is inane. It is adjunct to American democracy.
I just want to say real quick, my video talking about AOC and the big booty thing was age restricted on YouTube.
What?
The video where I talked about big booty Latina and all that stuff, they age restricted
It's an adult
it.
term.
Maybe.
Booty
I don't-
is? Because don't babies wear
Big
booties?
booty. No.
Well,
Those are
so here's
on their feet.
here's the video clip. Let's listen.
BBW.
Let's wait. On this time, I'm going to make sure we have the audio set properly
look at
before I
us.
press play.
Like Antifa?
And that there were actual officers working with this, and we never got to the bottom of that, and we never got any answers about that. And then to this day, we're just supposed to pretend that that never happened.
What about
I have
Antifa?
no idea what happened to the people on the inside who were very clearly sympathetic with what was going on and opening the doors wide open for that. And I'm supposed to sit here and pretend like none of that ever happened. And then right afterwards, you have a massive, you just have this idea that throwing money at that problem is going to make it go away
We could burn
without
some
any
buildings.
accountability. And so this is where these things are breaking down. We're not safe. And it's not just about members of Congress not being safe. The
Black
food
Lives
staff
Matter.
workers aren't safe. The
Black Lives
janitors
Matter.
aren't safe. Like, we need to get to the bottom of this.
Yes. So I'd love to get like a commercial of like a 60-year-old man being like, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says people on the inside open the doors.
This is what happened. When you talked to her, when you approached her on the steps, she was with a Capitol police officer that didn't get in your way and stop you. And now she's questioning, is that guy in it? And she's wondering if there are like traitors in the building. Whatever her reasoning is, it's important that we find out if people let people into the building. because those people are in solitary confinement right now, and that's
Ian,
not.
do you think they had a key? I mean, how do you think they opened the
I
door?
saw a magnetic lock on a door get opened. I saw the video of a cop
Who
looking
did
at
it?
I don't know.
Right.
There's someone off camera.
Yep.
And it was a police officer that like looked
you,
up and then
you think these dudes who are like trying to break a window to get in know where the mag release is?
And you don't think there's some of those cops that probably were sympathetic to what was happening?
For
I think,
sure.
I mean, she's obviously correct.
And I don't care what the end result is. Maybe the end result is like members of Congress were in on it. Good, whatever. Let's have an investigation into who opened those doors. If there were members of Congress that were orchestrating the opening of the door to bring people in to disrupt this, then we should find out who did that and why. I think all of these bumbling dotards, these old people, the MAGA meemaws, who just saw a clear path and cops waving them in, who walked in and now have their lives destroyed, should be pardoned. Those people should have never been charged. That was a fault of Capitol Police and the government. I want an investigation into the cops who opened the doors. If they didn't open the doors, this wouldn't have happened.
Well, and your bestie, Joe Rogan, talks about one of his favorite things that Alex Jones did is he exposed the WTO about in, I believe it was in Seattle, where there were agent provocateurs who stayed in a building and, basically they were all wearing the same boots. And agent provocateurs exist. Now, you're going to say, oh, none of them were on January 6th. We have evidence of people using agent provocateurs to make a riot look bad. That's a playbook. It's kind of similar to Operation Northwoods, which was, is a declassified thing where they're going to take planes and fly them into buildings during the Cuban Missile Crisis, and then 9/11 was kind of similar to that. But what I'm saying is, if you do not think the government has classified levels of information and is creating a narrative by using their own military, CIA, FBI, whatever you want to call it, alphabet agencies, in order to make things look worse than they really are, you might be a conspiracy theorist.
because it's a reason to get more funding for more security apparatus to grow the security organization.
It's a false flag attack, guys. And this is a false flag attack playbook. I mean, I could be wrong. I'm not saying that I know everything, but just all of the evidence, when we see Ray Epps, when we see the way the media is protecting him, it's hard for me to imagine that this was all just accidental.
Yeah, it could be a hybrid of like people getting angry and going to the Capitol, storming, and people trying to benefit off it by making it come out worse as a result. So it could be both.
I think if it is in that vein of false flag, it's more so that they allowed it to happen. And that's why there's video of police officers not intervening. There's a guy walking up to cops being like, why won't you stop this? And the cops are like, we don't care. It explains more so why there was no National Guard, no heavy police presence, why they're claiming, like Trump said he wanted the National Guard there and they rejected it. So if I'll put it this way. On 5/29, the left insurrected. They tried to they did tear down the barricades of the White House. They set fire to St. John's Church and the guard post. They forced the president into a bunker. If the police there stood down and they tore the fences down or breached the White House, there would not be a 1/6. Donald Trump would be president. Donald Trump, there would have been a major statement. There would have been far left extremists have breached the White House. Americans would have been terrified. They would have said, this is insane. And then the conversation would have been the police saying things like, we stood down because we did not want to hurt people and we didn't know how to react to this level. But what happens is the police go out, do their job and clear the space. And the response from the media and the Democrats was to investigate the police over it. They said the Capitol Police should be investigated for attacking protesters. That's how it went down on January 6th. Because the police let everyone do everything, it's geez, the police were the poor victims and these are the bad guys. It's the very typical I'm the victim narrative that is used to manipulate people to gain power.
And it is potentially possible that was happening. Like a cop's like, there's 700 screaming people, I'm not getting involved. Are you kidding me? Like that could probably also have been part of it. I wouldn't, I wouldn't get, what are you going to do? You get mobbed if that happens.
Let's talk about the Summer of Love 2020, RIP George Floyd. He's one of the greatest Americans of all time, one of my favorite actors. But what I'm saying is George Floyd, they literally burned down multiple cities and Kamala Harris donated to their bail bond fund. Mm-hmm. If that is not a false flag, so that's basically encouraging people to cause as much damage knowing you're going to get a get out of free jail card. How much more evidence do you need that they like the protesting? They want this to happen. So the fact that they would convince Trumpers to go and do some sort of insurrection, I wouldn't put him past him. And we talk about this, or I do in my show, MK Ultra, and you think of like, it doesn't have to be the 1984, make you watch a video with your eyes wide open. You can propagandize people with just the mainstream media, with just commercials, with just, basically creating a narrative.
You can target someone's Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram to only see certain things that will drive them insane. And this is the crazy thing people need to realize about these platforms. Facebook did an experiment on people. years ago where they only showed them negative content to see how their posts would change and how they would behave.
Well, and it sees the dilation of your pupil when you press a like, or you give it access to their rear face. They admit this. You give access to the front-facing camera, and it will actually measure the dilation of your pupil if you hit a like or you.
Wow.
That's why they created the multiple emojis in order to see the different dilation levels of the eyeballs with a different response.
So we know that Facebook was experimenting on people. They were showing some people only happy content. People got happy. They showed people negative, angry content. People got angry. They could choose. Facebook knows this, so they can see. They can probably seek out. We're looking for angry people. They find 50 angry people. Okay, we want the 50 angry people in this particular area. Now, we're going to make sure the only thing they see is the government doing things that violate people's rights. Mm-hmm. Then these people start getting angrier and angrier every day, seeing this, being like, what is happening? What is happening? What is my life? And then they get a message from somebody, or they comment on the post, and there's another person that happens to be a Fed being like, oh yeah, I am also angry. Why don't you come here and plan something? And then the Feds come in and we gotcha. Or they screw up and then someone actually gets out and does something and they're like, oops, well, better arrest them.
What's the FBI's favorite narrative after a school shooting? Well, he was on our radar. He was on our
sure
radar.
was.
He was on our radar, but we just, he wasn't big enough on our radar.
Well, proving the red flag laws don't do anything.
Yeah, well, and Dan Crenshaw voted for that in a state like Texas.
What happened to that guy?
Because, like he said, he's bought and sold by these, multinational corporations, and he doesn't care about America because he's the same guy that, he lost his eye in the war, but he wants to send more people to fight for the war. And I'm a conflict interventionist. I hate the war. I don't think there's any necessary reason to kill other people, even if you have the biggest conflict in the world. You have the biggest disagreement. We are human beings. That's what separates us from the animals. We should be able to come to agreement like humans.
What about with communists?
I don't even think we should fight communism.
No, but what if the communists are subverting your country and killing people and sterilizing kids, and you're like...
I'm the guy that stands in front of the tank and gets ran over. I mean, that's honestly how I feel.
I hear you. I agree for the most part. I think the foreign intervention is typically a huge mistake. But I'm not so naive just to not understand the argument made by neocons, right? There's a power vacuum in the Middle East. If we don't do it, China moves in. China's moving into Afghanistan. They're going to seize up all that lithium. It's going to empower a really, really awful country. And so I don't think the U.S.'s argument for what they do is justifying it, but I understand the point they're making in not wanting China.
Tim, they said weapons of mass destruction. We have enough oil and gas reserves in Texas alone for America. So
the real reason is that the U.S. wanted justification to dominate other regions to prevent a multipolar world.
No, it's for the military-industrial complex. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying it's a nuanced situation. You look
that's a component of it.
Yeah, it's a big component.
It's a big component, quite possibly the biggest. But I don't think it is just that simple. It is true that China is gaining ground, expanding in South Africa, in South America and Africa, continent-wise. And as the U.S. starts to recede, they start expanding, and then we're going to have to contend with a multipolar world where you have a China as a serious contender for, as a world power.
Yeah, but Tim, you look at Barack Obama. He won the Nobel Peace Prize, and all he had to do was drop a drone strike every 20 minutes for 8 years. He killed people at weddings. He killed children with these drones.
I think it's wrong.
So that to me, if you kill, it's like why I don't really like the death penalty, because if you use capital punishment, you murder one innocent person, which you've done most.
Agreed.
It makes it necessarily the whole system.
I completely agree on all of that.
Yeah.
This is why I oppose the death penalty.
But it's funny you say China, because they say it's our biggest threat. And I agree that they are a threat, because I think it's the Chinese fentanyl that they can add a molecule to that they're flooding through the border. Like I said earlier, we have a massive opioid epidemic. But China, they rely on us like we rely on them. So it's almost a copacetic relationship. One cannot exist without the other at this point. So they want to give us the impression that we're always going to be fighting with them. But their economy's dying right now. Our economy's dying. So what I'm saying is, unless we come together and build each other up, we're not going to make it. So by killing each other, I think that just makes the problem worse. We actually have to come to some sort of agreement, like the Donbas region of Ukraine. And if Russia wants a little land, give them some land. I don't even care. I don't want young children to die. Call me a conflict interventionist. Call me excuse my language, wussy, whatever. That's how I am.
You did see Hitler wanted a little land in the Sudetenland and they gave it to him, and then you saw.
Yeah, but everybody's Hitler. I mean, come on, Ian. You know what I mean? That's. But
appeasement's not always.
But
the best.
It's not about Hitler and using the Nazi analogy. It's about a conflict in which we said, we'll give you land, and the person said, okay.
I
and
want
then,
more. Yeah,
"I
give a
want
mouse
more."
cookie. You got to give him milk. I get that.
I've been thinking about, I've
a
kind
good
of
one.
taken a neutral stance on the war machine. I was picturing having a conversation with Hillary Clinton last night and just like, where she's just totally candid, like, yeah, whatever. And I'm like, okay, so what's up, dude? And she's like, Ian, we're running the military machine. This is it. This is the war machine. We have it right now. It's since the dawn of man, there has been a war machine. And now it's American, and we have to use it. If we don't, someone else will take it.
Ian, let me say this. There's a little country called Libya, and Muammar Gaddafi was universally loved by his people, even though say there's a different narrative. Let me tell you something. Libya is the only place in the world right now that has slave auctions. Happens today. What did Hillary Clinton say? We came, we saw, he died. So Hillary Clinton going into countries doing the war machine is the only place on earth where you can go buy a slave in 2022. I could go there right now and go buy me a slave. Think about that. That's all because of Hillary, who, her husband, flew on Jeffrey Epstein's plane 26 times without Secret Service, and Ghislaine Maxwell, the only person to get 20 years in prison for sex trafficking children to no one. So let me tell you something. These people making the decision do not care about children. They do not care about killing babies, and they definitely don't care about black people if there's a slave trade going on in a country that they destabilize.
They care.
applause sign.
They care to the point where it's utilitarian decision making, because destruction and moving resources around is a utilitarian function. It doesn't matter who's getting them as long as enough people get them.
banks.
Yeah,
or for the stabilization of the system.
I don't think Hillary Clinton, I'm sorry, Ian, like, you can make the argument about some global elites that they think they're doing the right thing and that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, but Hillary Clinton is not that.
She ran the war machine for a while.
But what I mean is, the accounts of Hillary Clinton are that she's like literally the devil. That she's not trying to help anyone.
How can you get into the position of American commander and not be the devil? Your job is to destroy what's wrong.
Listen, what I'm saying is, there are some world leaders that you could make an argument they're utilitarians who think they're doing good. Hillary Clinton is not one of those people. She is a demon who wants to cause mass suffering.
I mean, she's just a mom, but she got
No, she's not just a mom.
She's not just a mom.
But listen,
when she laughed about that child who was raped, this woman is evil.
When was that?
When she was
situation?
younger, she was she interning for a lawyer, and then she got
defended a rapist,
and that's fine. Everybody deserves defense.
Yeah, I agree with that.
She laughed about how
So
she got him. He got away with it.
she
I
was
vaguely remember that.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
thought it was
Well,
real
what
cute.
makes someone like that?
So narcissistic sociopathy.
That's it.
There's a story that she was on. I think she was on a U.S. Air Force plane, and there are ranking officers who are like engineers and pilots, and she holds up a wine glass that's empty and goes, and they're looking around like, what? And she goes,
I think what's happening is
like these military officers need to pour her wine for.
no.
That was a story. There was a book about it. There's numerous stories about how she treats people with disdain. She disparages people. She treats them like garbage insects.
Yeah.
So my point.
Personal
my point.
stuff aside, the system is insanely destructive that we live in. And I was like, well, we've never really done a genocide in the United States. And I was like, the native population. Oh yeah, we genocided 90
Trail
some
of
percent of them.
tears.
Yeah. Like, so this whole system is about destroying people and things, taking land, getting your food, getting for your people, and accept that if you want to talk about it. At least
So the issue here is that's the history of the world of all peoples.
And now the
forever.
power is in the United States' hands, and that's why, do we want it out of the United States? It's like, I like your idea of a peaceful union of people, but we need to make sure they have enough food and resources and water.
So let's sell all the farmland to Bill Gates. But no, but let me tell you this. So, R.I.P. Norm Macdonald, probably one of the best comedians. But when he was on SNL, when he was doing Weekend Update, he's one of the funniest guys ever. He would go after Hillary for Vince Foster. Vince Foster, I believe, was the chief of staff for Bill, and he's a guy that died in a park. I think it was like 2 gunshots to their head. So I'm not even talking about the Clinton body count. I'm just saying, where there's smoke, there's fire. I could defend AOC a million times over than before I would defend Hillary Clinton, just based on, like you said, the laughing at the rape of a child. You look at all the conspiracy behind her. So to defend these elitists, because it's like a multi-level marketing scheme, Ian. One person or a few people benefit from all of our suffering. It's very compartmentalized. You kind of want to be, you want to, in your head, you want to think that, the system's fair, but that's called cognitive dissonance. Thinking the government has your back, when in reality, the government is going to pee on you all day and tell you it's raining.
I don't think it's fair.
Can
I think
we?
It's highly unfair.
We're gonna pull this. We're gonna do the segment on this one. We're gonna do it. Norm Macdonald.
This
man.
is the best.
Oh, Vince Foster, Deputy White House Counsel.
Yeah,
Have
Deputy
you ever
White House.
seen the Norm Macdonald on The View? Bill Clinton murdered a guy.
Oh boy.
Let's
Barbara
just,
Walters is. Look at her. You gotta see her.
You're supposed to see him.
Yeah, that's a little desperate, isn't it?
let's jump
That's
to
just a clip of the.
A lie or a crook murder or anything like that. I love George Bush, man. He's a good man, decent. You know, none of this.
False.
Yeah, he's not a lie or a crook murder or anything like that. So it'd be good to get the. See, I think we should get the homicide out of the White House and get like a fresh start, because we don't want any more murderers.
I think we should just go on to the next question.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Oh, Clinton, he murdered a guy.
Wow.
But I know accusations without.
That's a little too far.
That's the way it does
let's
work.
just go on to the next question.
Oh, all right.
This is not my week.
Wait,
what
he
can I
pushes it.
tell you?
Hold on, a little longer.
Oh, it's not mine either, and I'm being very nice, okay? Be a good boy. Now, Norm.
Do you never hear that?
No, listen,
No,
we don't need
I
to
don't want
talk
to get
about
into this,
this.
and I don't want to hear
One
it,
at
and
a
this is
time.
not the place to make those accusations, and you're supposed to be funny. Let's get on.
He is.
It's funny.
There you go.
This is a live show.
Now, for nothing,
Why?
Norm, but you have been properly chastised by Barbara, so I'm now going to ask the next
I
question.
thought it was a matter of record.
Okay.
Let me do this, okay?
I'll tell you what's a matter of record. You will not be invited back if you don't shut up. All right, now.
He was never invited back.
Really?
Kid.
Let's talk football.
All right, manslaughter.
Let's talk.
Oh my gosh.
Did you ever hear the word? Oh,
The phone is
I
ringing.
certainly hope that's somebody calling to tell you to go home.
Oh, no.
Dude, you got a phone ringing.
This is the producer. He gives it out.
Answer the phone.
Hello? Oh, yeah. Oh, no. The thing is this. There, you know Matt Strauss?
Yeah, the producer.
The producer, he told me it would be funny. He said, like, why don't you carry a cell phone on and then let it ring and then pretend like there's a guy on it?
Is there
my
anybody on
gosh.
it?
No, it's a pretend
You know
thing.
what, Norm?
Is that the?
You're a dead man.
That's the end of it. But it's funny that you make a really good point in there, though. She says, let's talk about football. Because, listen, I used to love professional sports, but that is what distracts us, Tim, from really what's going on. They give us bread and circuses. Oh, my gosh, I'm going to drink my beer on Sunday and watch the Dallas Cowboys lose for the, 100th straight year.
When I was younger, I was very much like, I wish people stopped focusing on the sports and paid attention to politics. But now that
No.
really, really dumb people are treating politics like sports, I'm like, maybe that was a bad idea.
Yeah, but sports, listen, LeBron James, he's never read past the first page of a book. No,
And he
I mean,
votes and he gets political and he comes out and he campaigns and it's like, stop, please stop. You don't read, you know what you're talking about.
But who does he defend the most? China. So
Right.
my point being is sports are great. It's part of American culture.
China.
Baseball. We got it. China. I don't do good impressions. But what I'm saying is sports are important. I think for the youth, it gives them some sort of structure. I think, skateboarding, anything. I'm saying any athletic prowess is good for young people instead of sitting and just playing a game. Speaking of, I want to actually make this point. See, this is what I envision the future is. I actually believe that we're going to have some sort of vanilla sky matrix future where people are going to be their lives are going to be so, tumultuous outside of it that they're going to actually convince people to plug into what is called the metaverse. Very similar to the Matrix. And they're going to say, listen, we're going to intubate you. And in the metaverse, Ian, you're going to have, a 10-inch, what? You're going to, you're going to be dating a supermodel. All the people.
So it would be smaller.
Yeah, okay.
That would be, I'm not taking that deal.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, my point being is that you're going to have a beautiful supermodel life, and instead of living your 72 years on average here on Earth, you're going to live for 1,000 years. And you can look this up. They're actually talking about prison sentences for people where you can make somebody think that they had a 10,000-year sentence in a week.
You could be in it right now.
You could.
You're like wondering
torture.
why your life sucks, why you're poor, and it's like you're in jail.
But what my point being is
Future jail.
is the technology that they're going to have, and there's a thing called the uncanny valley, and actually I forget the exact term for it, but like AT&T, Verizon, what they do is they try to actually get, like, when you call a robot, basically to try to get customer service, they're trying to create technology where you can't tell that you're talking to a robot. And they can't do it. If they're ever tested, they can't do it because there's a thing called uncanny valley where they can't make it exactly like a human. It's not going to have the same speech pattern. You're always gonna be
Someday
able to
they
tell.
will, though.
Maybe.
Well, you say that, and that's why I don't necessarily think they will, because I think it's almost impossible. And the reason why is you say, oh, artificial intelligence will be able to create that. Really, artificial intelligence just takes, basically, it can make future decisions for you based on past decisions. But the idea that it can be you and me, there's some sort of uniqueness about us that I do believe is impossible to recreate. And I think that could be our soul, personally, but I just think it's almost impossible.
There's a
artificial
movie.
emotion.
There's a movie where they invent, there's like eye drops. Was it a movie or a show? I don't know. And then it simulates an experience. And so like this woman like puts the eye drops in, and then in the span of like 10 minutes, she spends a weekend in Aspen. And then her business partner's like, I've got a better use for this, prison sentences.
That's nice.
And then she's like, you can't do this. And then they fight, and then she like pins him down, and she like, he like puts the drop in her eye and forces her into like a 1,000-year prison chamber. And it's like all psychological, so there's literally no way to escape.
You could also make it
Crazy,
where
dude.
it happened, like you experience 10 seconds in the metaverse, but when you come out, it's 70 years later in real life.
Well, you'd be dead though.
Yeah. That's a way to like comatose people.
So here's a thought. What if your life, your mundane life, where you're trying to live right, you're trying to be a good person, you're resisting all of this woke communism garbage, in reality, you are a woke communist who was involved in some Antifa violence, and so you were sentenced to rehabilitation, where they make you live a life on the other side to experience violence from them. So then when you finally come out, you're like, I can't stand those people. And then you're like, whoa, I was those people. Now I get it. And you've been reprogrammed.
Well, it's like Inception. But I'll be honest, we talk about the prison industry, and, a lot of people on the conservative side will say systemic racism doesn't exist. But for me, I do believe it exists, because you look at a lot of the nonviolent drug offenders in jail are African-American or black. So I do think we have a prison system, a private prison industry in America that's a huge business. It goes along with a lot of the military-industrial complex, the pharmaceutical-industrial complex. Once again, it's the American people being sold out to corporations to make money.
This guy's a liberal.
Kind of, and I wouldn't be against universal health care in some form, not necessarily the way they want it, but I'm saying at least less taxes. There should be a way where people are so afraid. Tim, I know a lot of people, I'm in the bail bond business, we actually get people out of jail, so that's why prison reform's a big deal to me, but I know people that are afraid to call an ambulance and will take an Uber to the hospital because they can't afford an ambulance. So I'm not saying Canada's system's good. I don't know what system. I'm not that smart right
now. Dude, I took a taxi to the hospital once.
Exact. See?
Yeah.
Right there.
I called a cab. I had a kidney stone, and it hit me like all of a sudden out of nowhere, crippling pain. And I was like, quick, call green cab, Uber.
Think about that, Tim. You should have been able to call an ambulance.
I agree completely. So. And I'm like, dude, $50 in an Uber or $500 in an ambulance?
It's
more than 500, I believe.
Yeah,
I don't like chronic healthcare. Universal healthcare for chronic stuff, like someone eats too much,
universal healthcare
Sour
is going to
Patch
suck.
Kids.
It's going to suck, but I just feel like it's a better alternative if a kid breaks his arm instead of some mom being like, how am I going to pay for
emergency
it?
healthcare, emergency universal healthcare, but chronic where it's like they don't stop eating poison and then they get sick. It's like, dude, you did that to yourself. I'm not here for you.
But I got to say at this point, why is diabetes medicine, $170 in America, but in Mexico it's $5?
Why is dental care the same thing? Why is it that all of my ANCAP friends are like, oh, I got to get my teeth fixed. I'll be flying to Mexico City or something.
Costa Rica.
Costa Rica, especially.
Well, they argue that it's cosmetic, not medical.
Right. It's nonsense. And here's the crazy thing, too. In Mexico and in Costa Rica, they do this thing where after they do the work on your teeth, they take your own blood and put it over the damaged part of your mouth from the surgery, and it heals way faster.
Wow.
Yeah.
Your own blood, because it heals you, right? They don't do that here as far as I know. I was talking to somebody and I looked it up and I was like, if you go to Costa Rica, it's like a tenth of the price with better treatment. I'm like, that doesn't make sense.
Tim, what doesn't make sense is that we prescribe antidepressants to people that are suicidal. That makes you more suicidal.
I know.
It is the first freaking side effect in the commercial. You'll see somebody dancing in a field. Oh, may cause suicidal idolization or idealization. It's like, what? You're giving that to people that are suicidal? I mean, isn't that counterintuitive?
Yeah. This is what bothers me about the War Machine.
For teens, especially.
This is why I brought up the War Machine.
The younger, the better. They want to get you on it. The sooner you get on the antidepressants, the better it'll heal you. But as soon as they came out, mental health issues skyrocketed.
Shocking.
What are the chances?
I can accept that that there is a war machine that the United States is in control of. But what happens when corporations try to take control of it and poison and subdue the population through other kinds of means, nonviolent means like psychedelic psychoactives? That's not cool. I don't want to lose control of the war machine by going after our own people, false flags, pharmaceutical induction, like that, I'm not comfortable with. I'm down to hold on to the military and make sure that we have a stable planet where the hungry people aren't rioting and destroying everyone else to steal their food. But man, the pharmaceutical industry pisses me off.
Of course, but I do want to say my favorite thing, McDonald's French fries. So I'm thankful for the
Really?
genetically modified.
Yeah.
Good.
And that
Golden
never-
corn.
Yeah.
it never
McDonald's,
degrades.
I don't understand how people eat McDonald's.
Oh,
I don't
it's gross,
get it.
but it's delicious.
No. I get Burger King. Burger King makes
I like BK.
Haven't you had
BK
a sausage McGriddle?
Yes, I think it's
So
terrible.
good.
There's
Wow.
not a single item at McDonald's I think tastes good.
Tim, they
Burger
inject
King,
the pancake with syrup.
All right, which I love
Pretty
that
cool.
method.
Listen, but it gets Burger King.
No, it doesn't.
Burger King I find delicious but disgusting. Wendy's I find delicious and not that bad.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A, as Lydia pointed out the other day, actually probably the best.
Just
Of
don't eat the
course,
bread.
Really
Chick-fil-A
good.
is good.
It's like premium stuff.
Yeah, but it's not gay enough,
But-
so
but-
you can't go
It's
there.
true. Yeah.
Now it is now. They've
They're
What?
gay. The chickens
Yeah.
are
They
gay.
went
Yeah.
Postmates?
They started supporting all these organizations.
Yep.
I'm pretty
They
sure.
did.
right?
Well, you're talking
I
about
think so,
Postmates, and I want to thank Postmates
Oh,
because
gosh,
they
speaking
have
of
a
Postmates.
bottom-friendly menu, and that's so
Oh.
good. Yeah, we love the bottom-friendly menu. That's
Well, you don't
thank
want to.
Postmates.
You don't want to poop all over the place.
No.
No. But McDonald's, to me, it's all tastes like plastic and chemicals. I don't
Exactly,
So
and
good.
you know it's created in a lab to do that. That's why it has a mechanism in your taste buds. You're like, oh, this is addicting, and the more you eat McDonald's, the more you crave McDonald's. So
You know what the worst thing is? The mayonnaise at McDonald's is like flavorless slime.
yeah,
Flavorless. Burger King
Never
is
had
good.
it.
well, you see those chicken nuggets, that pink slime? Ooh, it's delicious when it hits
Oh
your
my
lips.
gosh.
Because the chemical reaction in your brain, it's like, almost like crack cocaine. It
Worth
causes,
it.
a euphoric sensation to some people.
You know what I had today? I had tuna. It's funny. So
You're very trim, though, Tim. I didn't realize you're in good shape.
Right, I lost a lot of weight
Yeah.
since November of last year. I stopped eating sugar, grains, cut out the wheat. The wheat apparently is like the worst part. It's inflammatory, I guess. I'm not a nutritionist. I don't know a lot.
Well, you look good.
All I know is I was like, I don't want to eat the bread or the rice or the fried anymore. So I started eating a lot of chicken wings. That's like 70% of my diet right
What,
now.
in an air fryer or what?
No, just regular chicken wings.
But
Like,
do you bake them? Because you said no fried.
I just go to the restaurant and say, give me chicken wings.
I love it.
I like Old Bay wings, like so there's no extra sauce or anything on them.
Old Bay rocks.
Yeah, Old
Yeah,
Bay's
it's
I'm a convert.
delicious. Yeah, no, of course.
And then for breakfast, I've been doing like we have our farm fresh eggs, like the chickens poop them out. I just eat that with like some like local cheese or something.
People have been
You're on
talking
keto.
about how the
Keto-ish
U.S.
for the
in
most part, yeah.
particular has a very deep like food quality problem compared to the EU because we
Yeah.
don't have strict enough regulations from the FDA and our regulatory agencies.
I think it's the other way around.
Yeah, I
You think the
they're too
EU
strict,
is
yeah.
too strict?
No, we're too strict.
Yeah.
We are?
Yeah. So
course.
so like our eggs are like what are they like stripped, bleached, and like
Our milk is so processed as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Yeah,
Raw
it's-
milk is
our
illegal
flour is
in
off.
some
Right,
states.
yeah.
raw-
Illegal.
Come on, raw milk is illegal.
Yeah.
That's a
You know what
crime.
else is illegal? Wine berries.
That's right.
Is
they
that
are.
true?
Yeah,
we have
yeah.
illegal. So I took
In
a bunch
New
of
York.
illegal berries. Or please don't arrest
Yeah.
me.
no, they're illegal in New York
In
and
New York.
Connecticut.
What if you ate one here and went back to New York and they're like, it's in your system, isn't
Oh my
it?
gosh.
Yeah, wow.
We're testing
Well,
you for wineberry.
Get down.
So yeah, wine raspberries are everywhere. They're invasive. They're thick brambles and they grow like crazy and they're delicious, by the way. People love it. But in New York and Connecticut, they're illegal to possess or sell or trade or
Yeah, but
whatever.
fentanyl's not. That's decriminalized. So yeah.
Well,
it's
that's the funny
wine
thing.
berries.
I'd be willing to bet if you were in New York and you like brutally beat someone, they'd let you out of jail. But if you're caught with wine berries, they'll
Oh,
be
boy.
like, ooh, serious violation.
Yeah, I mean that just shows you the hypocrisy of the rules in New York, and a big district like we said, AOC, who's the queen of New York. People are literally defending their bodegas and going to jail.
There's a point that I made the other day. So we ordered this, like you can order these like food things. One of the things that we promote on the podcast version of the show is the Moink box, and it's like farm fresh meats delivered right to your door. And so we got one of those, but with seafoods like scallops, prawns, fish. And I'm eating this wild white Alaskan salmon that is so delicious. And that's all it is. There's like lemon pepper on it with some like avocado and
Tim,
spinach.
do you use an air fryer? I hope you're using an air fryer. Do you have an air fryer in this house?
Yeah,
It's
but
the best
I'm not
kitchen
gonna air
appliance.
fry salmon.
Actually, they say it's good in there.
Just
I don't
baked
eat
it.
salmon. No, I swear they
But-
say you can air fry. It's delicious.
Here, what I said was, this is an expensive thing to order, like to order this wild caught salmon to your door. And then I'm like, it's funny. If you're like well off in America, you're eating food quality up here. If you're middle to lower class, you're eating food quality way down here. If you live in South America and Africa, you're eating food quality way up here. It's crazy that the poorest people in the world, not everywhere, not some of them are eating mud, but there are areas where people have like mud huts, but they walk out, catch a fish, and are eating fresh caught salmon. And that is better quality food than the mac and cheese McDonald's stuff that people are eating in this country.
And Americans get sick when they go to countries like that because they're not used to eating real food.
Yeah, but
Oh,
the
man.
biggest point that you made in that whole thing is that the middle class is basically getting destabilized. There's, the middle class is disappearing here in America, and that's what built this country, or I think that's the most important class in this country. And now they're making it where it's just elites and the super poor. And so if you don't realize, you can see the forecasting, and they're saying, food shortages, energy shortages. All that does is destabilize the middle class with this massive inflation where people cannot take their kids on a vacation. They can't afford to feed them in a public restaurant.
I think it's a culling. I'm not saying it's an intentional culling, but there is a culling that is happening to a degree. With food shortages, with the stress on the supply chain, what we're going to see is the poorest people in the world are going to be left destitute and desperate. And the elites, the upper class, the people, they don't care. And you can see this in the voting patterns. The Democratic Party has become the party that has become more white and more upper class. The Republican Party has become more working class, more blue collar, and more diverse. Democrats don't care about talking about inflation. They don't care about pumping money into the economy. What they care about is January 6th, because they're all, they're in houses that are on the hills, and the water is rising. And the people voting for Donald Trump and the people on the ground are watching the water rise around them. They're freaking out. The Democrats don't care. Those people don't vote for us.
I'm in an affluent neighborhood in Dallas, and that's what they're called, limousine liberals. I mean, they're not worried about the massive inflation. So if you don't think that, this social justice lifestyle is basically people on the left that aren't even affected by it, you're wrong. So you're 100% right when you talk about that.
That's what that's why I brought up the war machine earlier, because I feel like I think that we are, and I'll speak for all of us here, from a severely affluent environment where I've never suffered starvation ever in my life. Never experienced it.
I'm not from that.
I've been hungry. Well, at this stage of your life, you are. Maybe
at this stage of my life, I am not homeless or
Were you
hungry.
ever technically starving? I mean, you may have been hungry.
Yes,
Starving. Starvation is when your body's like wasting
yes.
away, kind of thing.
And I was.
So that's
Right.
it's pretty brutal.
And my cheeks were sunken in. I had black rings under my eyes, and I was eating oatmeal cream pies once a day.
Well, you're
from the
lucky to
change I
have
found on the
access to
ground.
oatmeal cream pies. Some people eat mud, like you said earlier,
Right.
and are willing
That's
to
a fair
kill
point.
for food.
But
Literally kill and steal.
I was like emaciated, and I was I weighed like 139 pounds or whatever, and then I slowly clawed my way out of that.
It's brutal. I lived in New York. I was living in my car, had food stamps, thank God, or I was washing my hands with rainwater because I didn't have but nothing like the poverty of desperation that will drive people to kill for food and access to water. So that's why there's a war machine. That's part of why there's a war machine, is to conquer rivers and food cropland.
You keep saying war machine, and you said that it's something that's existed throughout all of human history, but it sounds like something unique to the modern age and modern warfare.
No, it gets crazier and crazier. So like in the early days, you'd have a tribe of 30 people, and they'd be like, "We're running out of food. Well, I don't want to die." So they'd all get their weapons and say, "Then we got to kill them and take what they have." And so you'd have warring factions because there were scarce resources. Europe was crazy with it. More population, then they needed food, and then people were like, "It ain't going to be me." So they'd start fighting, and they try and take land and then take resources. And
That's not an apparatus that controls the allocation of resources throughout the entire globe that we have now.
Is that what Ian was referring to? Or?
The war machine is definitely globalized relative to what it used to be. Rome was pretty powerful in its day. I think Atlantis before that had like global domination status.
If
Atlantis were real, which it very well might not have been.
You can't say that on YouTube.
And there's not a lot of documentation.
I love the flat Earth
kidding.
videos on YouTube.
But what would happen
they're
is,
pretty good. It's funny that those flat Earth videos, that gets demonized so much, but it's kind of a compelling.
The
argument.
Earth is kind of shaped like a sausage McGriddle.
Okay, I have to say this. I
think it's injected with syrup.
Well, we can't get
syrup
on
Earth theory.
We can't get on the flat Earth theory.
Sorry,
but I do think space is a little
elliptical.
Well, I'm a moon landing expert because of Joe Rogan.
That's right.
Let me just tell you something. The idea that we could get to the Van Allen radiation belts in 1969 through 1972, we went through it twice, both ways, is absolutely impossible. Yet that same technology that was able to do it then, we accidentally destroyed. It's a painful process to build it back up again.
Just because they went through it doesn't mean they went through it right. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I mean, what?
saw the Fantastic Four.
Neil and Buzz lived for a long time. I mean,
Sure. And maybe they got the best medical treatment. But I remember astronauts saying, it was crazy. I was seeing stars. It was like I was there. And it's like, we we know that when you see the sparkles, it's because you're being bombarded with high levels of radiation. So like,
Yeah, but
they were
have you
outright
seen
wow.
the press conference, Tim, after they came back from the moon? They looked like their dogs had died. I don't care what anybody says. Joe Rogan actually argued 2 different times on Penn Teller's show that the moon landing was totally fake, made very compelling arguments, and then walked it back. And I love you, Joe. I'm just saying, it is what it is. And you're going to be like, well, Alex, you're just some conspiracy theorist idiot. I'm just telling you, you look at the footage.
I think there's a compelling argument as to why they would fake it.
Duh.
But I just also think like strapping some dudes to a rocket isn't as complicated as a lot of people think it is.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, in Trump just even said, he was trolling Elon Musk and said his rockets go nowhere. I don't know. I mean, rocket technology, space travel, I'll just be honest with you. What is it pushing off of, and somebody's going to say, oh, well, it's blah, 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 blah. I don't know. I think space is kind of fake. But what am I going to say? Yeah, I mean, what do I know? I'm an idiot. But yeah, what they tell us, I don't think it's true.
I get the feeling, I'll Snopes you, that you're partially true or partially false, whatever you want to call it, that they did print fake documentation of people on the moon. Stanley Kubrick, for instance, did video in case they didn't have enough footage from when they went.
That's a fact. You know that for sure.
Well, I think the theory is that it's all faked because Kubrick's footage proves it. But I think that what they did both. They went there just in case they didn't have enough propaganda to convince people and make them excited. That they shot more in a studio, that they were going to interlace. And some of it may or may not be interlaced. I don't know. But I don't see evidence that we didn't. Most of everything in society has told me that we have and that we still do go into space.
Well, just Google the fake Michael Collins picture that they used a picture with their training, and they admitted that it was false. That there was.
Well, who did?
Picture.
I don't think it's confirmed in
did.
any way that Kubrick directed anything about the moon.
No, but he did a movie exactly before it.
2001: A Space Odyssey.
And they say in The Shining that he left clues, like the little kids wearing an Apollo 11 shirt. I know. Hey Tim, I'm a conspiracy theorist. I'm a tinfoil hat wearing. So I mean, I'm just saying.
What about Atlantis?
I don't know, but Tim, I think you said the best point is like the government did have an incentive to lie, and I'll be honest, when it comes to the government, I don't trust them at all.
Agreed.
I don't trust them on anything, so it's hard for me to be like, oh yeah, let me just take your word for it.
I'll tell you, take a look at the space feats accomplishments of the Soviet Union and the United States.
They were crushing us.
The Soviet Union was crushing us. On the one thing we defeated them on was getting to the moon first.
Which is a reason why they would have lied about it, to be like, hey, we got there first.
So,
yeah, but they say that Russia would have exposed us for it, but I don't know, because all these same people,
or at least accused us of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's like, if you don't think that we're kind of in cahoots with everybody, it's like they want to. Let me tell you something. Vladimir Putin, the ruble is the strongest it's ever been. So if you don't think that this war is benefiting Russia,
you know how I know we've been to the moon? Because we came from the moon, because the moon is the arc. And the reason the Russians didn't expose us is because the U.S. and the Russians are actually both working underneath the moon people who control. I'm kidding. By
Space Force, yeah,
Space Force.
Yeah, I know, we need it. Well, who is Dianne Feinstein? I think just said that Space Force is our most important need. Pull that up. She just said it. So these people that are supposedly socialists, they want to spend all of our money in space. I'm just saying, I think that it spends a lot of money going and exploring these planets that we could spend here. It's similar to the war in Ukraine. We need to help out our citizens.
But
the motivation for space exploration is more of a morbid curiosity now compared to an optimism in the past.
I think it's great. The money spent on space travel is spent here. The people who get the money for space travel get that money, buy things here, and expand the economy. And the technology developed from space travel has widely improved the lives of people all over the world.
What space technology is improved?
Plastics.
You don't think they would have invented plastics without space?
Either way, it's there are programs, but also we're looking at mining asteroids, which is
sure, we're gonna get diamonds from asteroids. Come on,
titanium.
Dude. Did you see that they just found enough diamonds or gold? I think in Africa, trillions of dollars worth of gold in Africa. So
yes, where was that? Congo or something?
Yeah. So they say these precious materials. Oh, there's old residue. We don't have any. Yet, like I said earlier, we have enough oil and gas reserves in Texas, to support the whole world.
If we can get to the moon with a mining operation, we can access the lost ancient technology of the Ark.
Well,
it's a movie that just came out.
Of course. I'm just saying, the government, I trust them with every decision that they make. And you saw Bill Clinton was recently on James Corden's show and said like Area 51 was not aliens or whatever. It's kind of like this. There's a guy, Wernher von Braun, who was actually brought over in a thing called Operation Paperclip. And Wernher von Braun, he designed the rockets that actually, killed a lot of people in World War II. And we brought him over and we gave him immunity and let him create the NASA program.
And you know what he said?
Well, he's best friends with Walt Disney.
About the rockets in World War II? They performed wonderfully. They just landed on the wrong planet.
Well, exactly. But my point being is he even said to get to the moon, we need rockets about twice the size of the Empire State Building. And Wernher von Braun said that, and there's multiple...
Yeah, but that's a really long time ago. You know what I mean?
So you're telling me, let me just compare a 1969 Lincoln to a 2022 Lincoln, which is, has more technology.
The modern one? What do you...
Yeah, so do you think technology goes backwards? How did our space technology, I'm saying our technology in 1969, how does it go backwards? We cannot go to the moon today. And NASA admits it. We cannot travel 237,000 miles
Where do they say
to
that?
the moon. What are you talking about? We cannot have manned spaceflight through the Google this. Google cannot go through Van Allen radiation belt right now. It'll come up. And NASA will say, Google cannot go through Van Allen radiation belt. It should come up right on YouTube. And it's like a person saying, we're trying to develop technology to go to the moon, but we can't do it now. So we don't have the technology now, Tim, to send human through the Van Allen radiation belt. Yet we were able to do it in 1969. So it's the only technology.
Where did NASA say that?
Well, go to videos. Go to videos. Click videos. And you'll see, it's probably, obviously it gets all, it's like a woman talking about it, and she says, we cannot go through the Van Allen radiation belts now. Type in NASA, too. Put NASA in the search. But my point being is this video exists. Somebody will be able to find it.
Yeah, but are you talking about like a single individual or there's
We cannot go to the moon, Tim. That's a fact. NASA admits that.
I think you're wrong.
There's multiple. Tim, I'm not. Listen, I'm telling you, there's multiple videos saying, we cannot go to the moon. I'm telling you, that's official story from NASA.
But is that like you can't eat raw milk?
No.
That kind of thing where like they decided it's too dangerous for you, so now you can't do it?
Here, I'll find the video. But
can't and shouldn't are two different things.
I'm telling you, NASA today cannot go to the moon. Yet in 1969 through 1972, a technology that we accidentally destroyed. Pull up a picture of the lunar lander right now. If you want to believe me, just type in picture of the lunar lander.
Well, we'll start here and then we'll keep moving forward. So I'm trying to find out where NASA said we cannot get to the Van Allen. I found a Forbes article saying we actually can from
Ford,
7 years ago.
Yeah, but I gotta find it. I should have had
5
this
years
pulled
ago,
up. It's just there's so many videos. Now my service is terrible, but I'm telling you, Tim, we gotta find the video where it says it's very clear. They say we cannot go through the Van Allen. Go to YouTube right now. Go to YouTube.
Well, let me read this real quick. So this is them saying what is it? There were 0.38 rad. The radiation dose of getting 2 CT, blah blah blah. The atmosphere can be a danger, but they made it through it. The Apollo trips, we wanted to send the astronauts through a sparse region of the belts and try to get through them quickly. So yeah, I don't know.
Tim, the farthest we can go, according to them, is the International Space Station, which is roughly about 200.
But who's them? I don't.
NASA is roughly about 200 miles from the surface of Earth. We cannot go past low Earth. Oh, type in. Cannot go past low Earth orbit. Barack Obama. Type that in right now. Low Earth orbit. Barack. I'm not trying to be bossy.
Well, you just said you didn't believe the government.
Of course. But now to go to the video. Go now. Click videos. Click videos. It ought to be the first one that aggregates to the top.
He says for the United States, the leading spacefaring nation for nearly half a century to be without carriage to low Earth orbit and with no human exploration capability to go beyond Earth orbit.
No capability to go beyond low Earth orbit. The moon is 237,000 miles according to them. That's past low Earth orbit.
You're reading it wrong.
No, type in Barack Obama.
I've got the quote right here. Literally, it's right here in a quote. He says, and with no human exploration capability to go beyond Earth orbit for an indeterminate time into the future, destines our nation to become one of second or even third-rate stature. He's not saying we've never had the capability, he's saying we currently don't.
Please type in video. Just listen to what Barack Obama has to say because you're going to get all this stuff. And that's not it. The third one down. Third one down? Go down. Third one.
This one?
Yes. You got it.
This video right here?
Yes.
So let me start by being extremely clear.
Clear.
I am 100% committed to the mission of NASA and its future. Because
this is a minute-long video, but there's a shorter one where he says it, but we can watch it. Might want to play it on 1.5 speed.
Because broadening our capabilities in space will continue to serve our society in ways that we can scarcely imagine. Because exploration will once more inspire wonder in a new generation, sparking passions and launching careers. And because ultimately, if we fail to press forward in the pursuit of discovery, we are ceding our future and we are ceding that essential element of the American character. Now, I know there have been a number of questions raised about my administration's plan for space exploration, especially in this part of Florida where so many rely on NASA as a source of income as well as a source of pride and community. We start by increasing NASA's budget by $6 billion over the next 5 years. By buying the services of space transportation rather than the vehicles themselves, we can continue to ensure rigorous safety standards are met, but we will also accelerate the pace of innovations as companies, from young startups to established leaders, compete to design and build and launch new means of carrying people and materials out of our atmosphere. Yes, pursuing this new strategy will require that we revise the old strategy. In part, this is because the old strategy, including the Constellation program, was not fulfilling its promise in many ways. That's not just my assessment.
Okay, they edited it out. You got to click back, go to YouTube, and you're going to see a short version. Type in Barack Obama low Earth orbit. You got to go to YouTube.
Obama
low Earth orbit, and there'll be like a 10-second clip of him saying it that we cannot go through. That's him speaking. We got to go down. You got to see, it's that speech there. He says he cannot go through low Earth orbit. I promise you, dude. I mean, it's just kind of annoying.
I mean, I read the quote where he said...
No, but you have to hear him say it because he doesn't say that quote. He does not say that. He says it much different. He says we do not have the ability to go through.
But it can't even reach low Earth orbit? I mean, we have a transcript right here, right?
I'm just saying. I mean, you can call me a conspiracy theorist, but this is Barack Obama saying.
Few people,
the same people that typed this transcript are the ones that said that Joe Biden didn't say.
Sure, he says sure it's comfortable, but it can't even reach low Earth orbit, and that obviously is in striking contrast to the Falcon 9 rocket we just saw on the launch pad, which will be tested for the very first time. I mean, here's the issue: like anything they don't want shared, we're not going to be able to just Google search. You know what I mean?
Well, but on YouTube, there's a lot of conspiracy. Go to YouTube and then type in upload date. Type in Barack Obama low Earth orbit, and then type in upload date, and then it ought to be one of the first ones. Type in Barack Obama low Earth orbit.
There it is. Recent search suggestion.
Go down. It'd be a really short one. And did you do it by upload date? Search by upload date.
Where is that upload date?
To the right. To the right.
To the right.
Yeah,
upload
right there.
date.
Okay.
And we want to go from reverse.
Yeah, well, you want to go down where it's that short. I think is that maybe that 9-second one up there. Obama says we can't go.
9-second one? This one?
Does that say, what does that say? Next day, this is it.
Early in the next decade, a set of crewed flights will test and prove the systems required for exploration beyond low Earth orbit.
In the next decade.
But I don't think you understand what that means. And second of all, this is a 9-second out of context clip.
Well, you can watch the whole context. I'm just saying he admits today with the technology, well, you can fact check me all you want. People look at it. He says today that we cannot go through low Earth orbit. We cannot take manned flight. Barack Obama said it. So
right.
The idea,
mean the technology doesn't exist. It means we don't have it. We don't fund it.
We don't have it yet. We did have it in 1969 through 1972.
And then they stopped.
So you're telling me technology goes backwards, Tim? You actually believe that?
Like there was a long period they wondered how the Romans did concrete underwater, right? For a long period, we couldn't build skyscraper.
You're comparing space flight with concrete, Tim.
Okay.
How did they build the pyramids? Well, I'm just saying we can't rebuild the pyramids, right?
We can, and we know how because I've read about the construction of the pyramids.
Oh, you got to be kidding! These Freemasons. I'm just saying some of the designs.
So now you're saying it does go backwards.
Well, exactly. My point being, though, not space travel.
It's really simple. We had a reason to go to the moon when we were in the Cold War. Afterwards, we abandoned the projects and abandoned the rockets, and they fell into disrepair, and no one cares anymore. Now, we have no real reason to build and expand in that direction, or we don't have companies that want to do it, nor do we have the government wanting to do it. And in 2010, Barack Obama was saying, we need to start building the machines to do this.
But we don't have the machines today. You admit that, right?
I don't know. Based on what he said 12 years ago, we did not have machines capable of doing it. That doesn't mean the technology didn't exist.
It
means they did not build them. And Barack Obama is literally saying in these videos, we're going to put $6 billion into NASA to build these, to do these things.
And we can't go today. They keep saying we're going to go to the moon. And let me tell you something. You know this as a successful businessman. It would be the biggest marketing tool in the world if they were able to go to the moon. And yet we can't. So, I mean.
But I don't understand why you're saying we can't. Like Elon Musk is currently building Starship to go to Mars.
Google if Elon Musk says we can go to the moon. We can't.
Elon Musk is saying we can go to Mars, but we can't go to the moon. Elon Musk tweeted
we cannot send manned spacecraft. They can say they can send a rover.
Elon Musk said on Twitter like a week ago, we will be on Mars, and you will see men on Mars in our lifetime.
He also wants to put a computer chip in your brain to be able to park your Tesla.
But that's not a question. That's a morality question, but not a question of the possibility of the spaceships.
well, you guys can believe the moon landing all you want, but it's so fake. And the government, I mean, it's so fake.
For the record, if Barack Obama said, we do not have a base on the moon, I would immediately think, we probably have a base on the moon.
Yeah. Well,
there was a skit about that. Who did that? It was the whitest kids you know. Have you seen that one?
No.
He's like, there are bears on the moon. He's like, and they're like, did you just admit there?
That was a great sketch.
And then someone goes, are we invading Iran? And he goes, you got me. You got me. And then, you know.
Okay, last thing, because then we'll get off the moon because people are going to get so mad at me. Just type in a picture of the lunar lander, please.
Lunar lander, huh?
Yeah, just type in a picture of it because I want you to show you this great technology. Now, type in images.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want you to, look at that thing and you tell
Which
me
one?
that. So you know the idea of the lunar lander is that they were able to go. What happened was we were able to send a craft to the moon, get in the moon's orbit. Then Michael Collins stayed in the craft, and then that thing was able to escape from the spacecraft, and it was able to land on the moon. Then Buzz and Neil were able to take a car out of there and drive it around and play golf on the moon, Tim. This is the official story. They actually snuck a golf club. Google snuck a golf club onto the moon.
Yeah.
So you're telling me NASA, with technology, you're able to just, bring your own bag. Yet on an airplane, if your bag weighs over 40 pounds, you can't even take it on. But these guys can take
that
a golf.
analogy makes no sense.
Well, I'm saying it's the joke is the fact that they can just bring stuff on the most intense mission we've ever been on. But look at this technology. You see that? You see how that's held together? Does that not look like like 2022 technology?
I don't understand what you think is wrong with it.
I'm saying that is the fakest looking crap I've ever seen in my life. That's garbage.
Well,
you got to zoom in on it. Look at that. What is that? Tinfoil and what is that?
It literally is foil. Yes.
Okay, and that's paper. And this is according to them. This you can Google this. That when they were doing practicing for the mission, that if they dropped a tool, that it was so thin the tool would fall through.
Through what?
Through the whatever you want to call it, the walls of the lunar lander. You can Google this. Tools would break through the wall of the lunar lander. Look at that. That is tape, Tim. That's space tape, bud. That went through.
Do you know they put duct tape on airplanes?
Okay.
Do you know that when I worked
to airplanes?
When I worked at O'Hare, passengers would freak out all the time watching mechanics put duct tape, and they would be like, and they would be
okay.
like,
So why can't we
calm down.
recreate that then? If it's just tape.
Who says we can't recreate it?
Because we can't go to the moon today.
Why can't? Who says that?
Barack Obama.
Okay, you're conflating the lack of funding and motivation with the lack of technology.
Tim, if you don't think they're motivated to go to the moon, you're kidding me, bud.
For what? For what? What's on the moon?
Because it could be a marketing technique. The same reason.
Let's spend $50 billion to market. When we were at war, I get it. Now,
they gave $80 billion to the Ukraine to fight a war.
We can't get people to fund real journalism.
But we can get all this money to go to Ukraine? Come on.
Right. You can get money for a war. You can't get money for journalism. Why would you get money for a moon mission?
Explain to me, where did the car come out of that machine?
I'd have to research. I think you're wrong about everything you've already presented.
No, I'm not. So I'm right. But
you can't come here and be like, the car came out of that and have me just assume you're right.
It did. Well, okay, type in the moon landing rover and look at the car. Just look at that.
It's a Jeep frame. Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, a Jeep frame. They were able to, in a machine, in that thing, they were able to pop out a Jeep and drive around and play golf.
You can make a lot of assumptions, and I would argue there is a good reason why the U.S. would fake such a thing. Mm-hmm. But none of what you've presented is actually evidence that you're right. It's conjecture based on out of context quotes, and it does nothing for me to believe you. Now, you might be right.
You don't have to believe me. I'm just saying you can just believe the government. I mean, that's what, that's.
You don't have to believe either, though.
I'm just saying the technology.
But like here, I'll tell you one of the weakest points.
Well, this is the thing. But think about their batteries.
I'll tell you one of the weakest issues. The foil on the lander right here. I actually know a little about, and I understand the concept of using lightweight reflective foil. Mylar, for instance. You seem to not understand that. So when you say that, it's a red flag for me being like, well, if you don't understand that,
Tim,
I would assume the rest of your arguments are incorrect.
Well, listen, I'm not saying that, you can't say that. You're allowed to have an opinion. But I'm just saying if you actually do the research, you actually looked into it, like your buddy Joe Rogan did for a long time, you can pretty much find all the holes in the story of the moon mission. It's just laughable. And I know we're kind of going on a tangent, and you're going to say,
no, for sure. Like I tried looking up, and granted, there's the issue of Google suppresses things, so it's like not easy to just be like, I'm going to Google it and we can prove that it's a real thing. But all I can say is this: I don't know about the things you're saying. Nothing that I've pulled up has actually confirmed what you've been saying.
Okay, type in this.
And more importantly, I want to make the point. When I understand the concept of mylar or lightweight reflective foil and you don't, it's a red flag for me.
It's not even about that because the foil they said was so thin that a tool could fall through. You can
But that's a fact. But I've actually gone to labs for jet propulsion and like saw them working on these things. I actually have a video of a rocket test at X-Core in the Mojave Desert, and I watched them fly a rocket plane. So when I actually sit down with rocket engineers and machinists who are building these parts, who explain these things to me, and I know even the tiniest bit as like a layman who's like, oh, I heard about that. And then you say something that's completely incorrect. I say, okay.
Well, what did I say incorrect? That's foil? That's space foil?
You acted like the foil was somehow proof that didn't make sense.
I'm just saying that does not look like very advanced technology to me. That's what I'm saying.
Because
I'm not
you're
saying
basing your mind, your view on like sci-fi movies.
No, I'm looking and using common sense that looks like it's held together by literal tape.
And the issue is,
I'm right that it's tape.
You're wrong about foil. And you don't know anything else about
type in this. Just type in astronauts' hands injured from the spacesuit. So multiple, yes. Well, I'm just saying.
We're not going to get it done in half an hour.
I know, okay. This is the last thing. But this is the last thing I want to say. And this is a fact. Multiple astronauts, when they came back, in the pictures, they had scars on their hands. So this technology that was so incredible, and on the moon, in the sunlight, it's 200 degrees. In the shade, it goes to instantly negative 200 degrees. Now, you can talk about the space technology to get there all day long. We cannot even recreate the suits. And on top of that, back then, these suits, the most magical suits on Earth with one battery that can go change 400 degrees an instant. Listen, was not even able to get the thumb mechanism right for multiple because there's astronauts that admitted that they had thumb injuries when they came back.
The problem with conspiracy theories is that you choose to believe some narratives but not others.
I believe all the narratives. It's fake. That's all I'm saying.
So if
they can't get the glove right, then they can't get a battery technology that can make a suit change instantly 400 degrees.
The problem with conspiracy theories is that you've made a determination and now you agree with the evidence that backs your determination.
Well, that's with everything, right? I mean,
no. I don't have that position. My position is I don't know.
Well, I mean, I do know that we didn't go to the
I know
moon,
that you're like you acted like the foil was an incorrect thing, and having actually
I didn't say it's incorrect. I said it looks like garbage. It looks like a space shite.
And you're wrong, right? So that to
I'm
me
wrong. What do you mean I'm wrong? You think that looks good to you?
The foil, specifically, is a red flag in your argument because you don't understand.
Okay, what other than the foil? What is that? What is that material?
I don't know.
What's the material next to that?
There's a thermal blanket comprised of 25 layers of Kapton tape, gold leaf. There's data about it we could read into.
Right. So let me stress this point because I don't think you're getting it. I don't know anything about the lander.
Mm-hmm.
You don't either.
I know a little bit.
You looked at it and said that does not look right. I said, okay, actually, I've been to a jet propulsion laboratory in the Mojave where I watched them do tests and they explained to me heat resistance, return, all that stuff. And so
you're comparing apples and oranges, but okay.
So you're misunderstanding. My point is, when I've actually gone to a spaceport and looked at this stuff, and have witnessed the tests of it, and actually flights of the they didn't do the rocket test when they went in space in the rocket plane. They just flew it around. And then you come out and say, that looks wrong to me. I'm like, okay, well, you're missing key context here.
No.
So I'm not going to take your narrative, which is based on conjecture.
Don't believe me. That's the first thing I want to say is I'm not a role model. Do not ever believe me. I just think we should question the reality in which we live in. And there's a lot of unanswered questions with this. And when you talk about the original footage that they accidentally deleted, they recorded over all the telemetry
Someone
data.
said you were wrong. The rover was not on the first mission.
It was on 15, 16, and 17. Apollo 15, 16, and 17.
So this actually, you were wrong. And that's the problem I have.
Yeah, but
you said, where's the rover on that? You were wrong. There wasn't a rover on
but
that.
look at the lunar lander with a rover. Look at that. Look how fake that looks. I'm just saying, it doesn't pass the smell test. And you don't want to give it the smell test because, you're red, white, and blue.
I wouldn't be surprised if NASA and the government opted to throw false information out there so that other people couldn't recreate their process. Just like with Area 51, they told people there were little green men in the stuff so if someone went rogue and wanted to spill the beans, they're going to sound like a crazy person.
Well, I'm just saying, guys, you can believe the landing on the moon.
I don't think you're wrong to cast doubt on it, but you are saying with certainty that we didn't do the moon landing.
Well, I don't know a lot of stuff.
Do you know it?
In my heart, I know, and that's all that matters. Because you know what? We get to choose the reality.
In your heart, you believe.
In my heart, I believe, and I believe that I'm 1,000% right. But we can debate the moon landing all day long. I do debate people on it, but I'm not even trying to debate you, Tim, because I like you and I appreciate your opinion.
Oh, I thought it was fun. It was fun.
No, it is fun. And on a serious note, though, I'm just saying, you can watch a little documentary by Bart Sibrel. A funny thing happened on the way to the moon. And when he went and confronted the astronauts, he asked them to swear on a Bible whether they went to the moon. None of them did. And so, regardless, you can believe that we went to the moon and that we lost that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back up again. Don Pettit, a NASA astronaut, is the exact person that said it. And I believe less than 120 people have even been to space. So the idea that they could fake it, I think.
Here's a point. There was a period where we only built buildings up to 8 floors because the heat accumulation at the highest floor was too intense, and we had limited technology for preventing it. We invented window air conditioners, and all of a sudden we could now expand with window air conditioning units as well as centralized units. Now we could actually sustain buildings all the way up because we could funnel the heat out the sides. The funny thing is, there are ancient cultures that would build structures that would guide heat out of the building.
I've seen that. Yeah,
it was not necessarily a lost technology, but kind of was. It was amazing. I was watching this documentary.
But we lost the technology in 50 years, Tim. This is in the thousands of years, like the pyramids. Is my point.
I just don't see it as being impractical that having no reason, no commercial purpose, the government stops funding it, people stop funding it, and then they're like, "Where's the old documents in the construction for?"
They did lose all the old documents, and they lost the plans for building it.
It's just
so they just lose that. It'd be like saying, "Oh, we lost the Constitution." It's literally America's greatest technological achievement, and we just accidentally deleted it.
I wouldn't say accidentally deleted it. I just think there's a possibility that without any support, we stop doing it.
Also, like if I had a brilliant weapon,
cognitive dissonance. But we'll just agree to disagree.
I think it's your cognitive dissonance.
If I had an amazing weapon,
you want so hard to believe it's not real, whereas I'm asserting nothing.
No, that's not necessarily true. I wish you actually went to the moon. I just hate that we didn't. That's my point.
And see, so my position is, there is limited evidence that we did, and conjecture. You have an official narrative and you have a counter narrative, and I say I don't know. There's a motivation to fake it. But there's also rocketry has been around for a while, and we have ICBMs. They're very powerful, and we have tons of explanations as to how we can and have done it. You've not presented any hard evidence.
I've presented a lot of evidence, but Werner von Braun
you haven't. There's no literal evidence. You have conjecture.
Okay, conjecture, whatever. So I presented a lot of conjecture.
You've asserted a belief based on what you've read, which is believing some narratives but not believing others with no basis.
But you're comparing like the technology of some jet, to what we were able to do in 1969 through 19. Didn't you just say you went to Jet Propulsion Lab, or is that where did you say you went?
These are rocket engines.
Or excuse me, rocket engines.
Right. This is rocket propulsion.
Yeah.
So Jet Propulsion, X-Core Spaceport. X-Core was the company. I don't think they exist anymore. I watched them do a rocket test.
I wonder why they went out of business.
Because rocket planes are impractical. The idea of a rocket plane is Los Angeles to London in 2 hours by entering outer space and then dropping down. You go straight up, then you go through space where you can travel super fast. Then you re-enter the atmosphere by spiraling down, and it's prohibitively expensive. So it was invested in, and they ultimately said, no one's really going to want to spend the money to travel this way. It's not that hard to fly in a plane for 12 hours. So that's why that ended. So when I go to a lab and I see these things, I say, oh, that's interesting. That lines up with other things I've seen in the past. Still, I'll entertain the possibility they did fake it. I think it's less likely, and I don't know.
Well, it's possible they did it, and then they were like, yeah, by the way, it's impossible to do, so no one tries to do it. Like, they don't want other people to try and do it. They want to disincentivize that. They want to be the leaders, so they're going to pretend like it's impossible.
Well, listen, we can, it's funny, I get my...
We'll read super chats, otherwise...
Okay, and I agree, and it's funny because I finally get on Timcast, and then we have to go full tinfoil hat, but I am Primetime 99, the host of the Conspiracy Castle, and you're welcome to sub to that on YouTube. Yeah, it's called the Conspiracy Castle. But what I'm saying is, and that was actually before you called it Cast Castle, but that's neither here nor there. What I'm saying is, that's neither here nor there. My point being is, do not believe me. Do your own research. It's out there. You can look into it. And I don't have my computer here. If I had my computer, I could be, blah, 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 blah. My internet service is not that great because, we are out in the sticks. But my point being is, Tim, I respect your opinion, and I think that you're trying to hold my feet to the fire, and I appreciate that. But at the same time, I always encourage people to do their own research, including you, which you should listen to tonight. Joe Rogan on the Penn Teller Show, arguing about the moon landing because he is your bestie.
Let's read some super chats. We got White Owl says, Tim, why are you so anti-big booty Latina?
That's true, dude. You got to be more pro-big booty Latina. The bigger the booty. Hey, and on a serious note, though, actually, the Latin community does have a diabetes problem. So if you're out there and you do have a big booty, go walk around a little bit. I do not want you to get diabetes because insulin here in America is extremely expensive.
Fasting also can be extremely valuable if you look into that as well.
Yeah, and it has spiritual value as well. So
Kyle Schmidt says she only got mad because he used Latina instead of Latinx.
Yes.
That's fair.
Latinx.
Yeah. Classic mistake.
That is fair.
All right. Let's grab some more super chats. Andrew Starr says, if you act ridiculous, it will show how ridiculous the system is and will become in order to push its boot on your neck.
Yes.
You're kind of like the Joker.
I am a little bit.
From the movie.
I am a little bit like the Joker. I do, with a smile on my face. Well, I feel like I have nothing to lose. I lost the most important person in my life, my mother. So what I'm saying is I kind of do sometimes feel like the Joker. Like I got nothing to lose. I'm saying I'm fearless because when I walked into a room and watched my mom die, it kind of just showed me that I saw and went through the toughest thing that I'll ever go through. So I can compare any situation, literally any situation, I can compare it to that and think, well, this is a piece of cake. So confronting a politician or going in sort of some meeting and getting all the attention on me is nothing as bad as holding my mom's hand while she died. So yeah, I kind of am a little hardened by that.
Wow. All right. Yeah. Raymond Maga G says, Tim, come on, man. Let's be honest about the facts. Every vlog skit starring Ian, a.k.a. Langston Stewart Jr. III, he steals the show every time.
That might be a good thing. Unless I'm a supporting character.
All right. Let's see. Curtis Terry says, Tim, getting introduced to you and Dan Bongino around the same time in 2016 literally saved my life. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. That being said, I stood up for my principles and against bullying and lost my job. I got kids. Quit pushing fake news receipts on Twitter. Quit pushing fake news. What is that a reference to?
Who knows?
Receipts on Twitter. Sorry to hear it, man, but tremendous respect for you standing up for what you believe in. There are risks. What was it? We read this. I was reading this Plato quote. It was we talked about the one where it said the penalty for being indifferent to public affairs is to be ruled by evil men. But there was another one I read where it said maybe you guys know who this quote's from. It's like sooner or later you'll have to fight for what your sooner or later there will be a fight for your principles and values. It can be you, it can be your children, or it can be your grandchildren.
Oh.
Better for it to be you.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody said that. They said better that it be me than my children.
Yeah.
That was a founding father.
Yeah,
I
something like
remember
that.
Yeah, look it up.
Rocket Sauce says this is for Langston Stewart Jr. III. Dope is for dopes.
Keep it up.
Dope is for
You guys
dopes.
got to check out Cass Castle. If you're not in on the joke, you will be.
As a super chatter said today, Ian is our favorite Nixon conservative.
Oh, you.
All right. What do we got here?
Do you read all of them? Does it matter how much they pay for, or the ones that are more expensive you tend to gravitate?
I try not to just get the big ones. It's a mix, right? You don't want.
So you're a socialist super chatter.
Yes, because some people can't afford to give $100.
I agree.
But they make good points. Some people will give a lot of money, making really bad points, intentionally hoping that the amount of money will make me read something that is like not good. Some people will try and promote stuff and use it as an advertisement, and within reason, we'll read some of them. For the most part, I'm like going through and I'm like reading the ones, and I really am. I always try to find like the good questions and the good points, not to like say that people shouldn't. Like I won't read it as but I read some that are inane and just we'll grab what we can. But I usually I want like good questions, right?
Of course.
Yeah, so before we move on, I just want to read this quote real quick because it's really good and I'm glad you brought it up. This is from Thomas Paine. It said, I prefer peace, but if trouble must come, let it come in my time so that my children can live in peace.
The quote I mentioned was a different quote from someone else.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Similar.
They said there will be a fight. It will be fought either by you, your children, or their grandchildren.
Oh, so you got
it
the
is better that it's you
too.
or something like that.
And we're in that fight. It's called the culture war.
Yeah, 100%.
Kefka says, the taking down of the American flag is the act of tearing down the statue. Will of the people is for the cycle to continue. Interesting.
And the American flag is kind of considered a hate symbol by the people on the left.
Remember when those shoes got canceled that had the original flag on them?
Betsy Ross flag.
Yeah, the Betsy Ross flag.
Yep.
They got what, for as a hate speech?
It was like offensive, so they apologized. Like Nike apologized and pulled the shoe or something.
My favorite shoe was a little Nas X shoe that had blood in it. That
Yeah,
was
it's
my.
right.
I tried to wear them, but I can't wear them.
You still got them?
How did it have? Whose blood was it?
Baby's blood. No, I don't know. I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Because how many did they make?
Well, it was actually a third-party thing. They took old backstock shoes and did it, so it ended up being kind of.
I thought it was supposed to be his own blood.
Something like that.
How much blood did he get?
It was just
it
was supposed to be one drop of blood
into all of the paint.
Yeah.
Something like that. I mean, who knows? Come on, fake news.
All right. Ken Ballard says, how different would our world be if Trump ran as a Democrat in 2016 and won? P.S. Ian did great in the recent Cast Castle video. Yeah,
They're loving you, Ian. They're loving you.
It was a big deal. You should join us someday.
I know. I'm down. I know. Let's do it.
We should definitely. Where are you based out of?
Dallas?
Dallas. We gotta get you on the vlog.
Let's go. Project 99. I want to freaking, I'm moving in. I'm sleeping up here tonight.
Let's do it.
Dylan Elliott says, hey, Tim, what are your thoughts on the fact that a second civil war will take place in an age of nuclear weapons? What do you think of the possibility of a second civil war ending with portions of the U.S. witnessing the penultimate form of devastation? It would be tactical. It wouldn't be like ICBMs or anything like that. It's not just about nuclear weapons. It's about biological weapons, too. It's about a whole lot of things, about cyber warfare.
And I know, I hear you talk about the Civil War a lot, but, I think the only way that happens is if they do repeal the Second Amendment and take away our guns. What do you think would be just in your opinion, what would be...
You can't take away guns.
I agree, but I'm saying, what do you think would be the straw that would break the camel's back that would make people go on the street and start shooting each other?
It's not going to be like that. It's going to be... what I think is the highest probability would be local militiamen blocking highway roads.
Yeah.
And it could start with like 10 people. And it could escalate into trucks with California plates are barred from entering Texas because, let's say, a woman in Texas gets pregnant. Her husband says they're married, and the husband's like, this is great, we're going to have our third child. She says, I don't want a third child. And he says, well, honey, you're pregnant, and we live in Texas, and I want this child. And she says, okay, in the dead of night, she packs a bag, she flies to Colorado, and she gets an abortion. Texas says she broke the law, and she murdered the child of one of our residents. She kidnapped the child, killed it in another state where we recognize that as murder. The husband is freaked out and angry and distraught. And so you end up with a conflict. The feds refuse to get involved. Then trucks from Colorado tried delivering goods and local militiamen are like, you are murderers who killed one of our citizens. Turn your truck around. Trade disruptions start. Then that's the kind of thing that snowballs, and you'll end up then with like a truck comes in and then the guy in the truck gets out and says, you're not law enforcement, get out of here, don't point that gun at me. Fighting breaks out, someone dies. Then state law enforcement from Texas says to Colorado, now your guys are shooting at our guys. The feds refuse to get involved. Then Texas says, we're going to send people to extradite that woman who murdered a child. We won't stand for this. That's the kind of ideological escalation that results in interstate conflict. Then the feds finally say, okay, now local law enforcement or National Guards are being rallied up. We got to get involved. And then you get a left versus right versus federal strange civil war scenario. Possibility, not saying it will happen.
But so you kind of break it down, it would almost be like, Texas and Florida versus, New York and California.
Sponsored by Pfizer.
So with the first Civil War, I think it was 7 states, I usually get the number wrong, seceded before Abraham Lincoln was even president. And the other states joined after Abraham Lincoln invaded and started fighting against the against the Confederacy to pull them back and to force them into the Union. And so it's possible that what starts is, I'll put it this way. The reason Texas joined the Confederacy was because they had no choice. They by geography, that's what was stated. They were relatively new to the Union. They were offered up to be 5 states before they came. It decided to be one big state. And then when the Civil War breaks out for trade reasons and association, they were like, well, we're here next to all of the Confederacy. We have no connection to the Union at this point. So we just, it was practical. They could have gone either way. Some states could have. So the probability is you might see with the abortion stuff circumstances. And I think, what could be a small catalyst is like a man and a woman are together. Maybe they're not married. And the woman gets pregnant, and the guy says, you have to keep it. And the woman says no and flees. That's a crime in Texas, or maybe Oklahoma is a better example, facilitating or trafficking an abortion. Or I think Missouri passed this law in March. And the guy who lives in the state is victimized, and his unborn child was killed. So he wants justice. The state petitions the federal government for intervention. The federal government refuses. The state goes in uproar. They start barring access to residents of other states, saying no, because not until that person is extradited and the feds won't intervene. And, there's a potential there.
And I'd actually like to get your opinion on abortion, because even people that are pro-choice actually agree that there should be some sort of limit, maybe not in the 3rd trimester. So what do you think about the politicians trying to do it up to birth?
Oh, we talk about it all the time. They're psychotic.
Yeah, I mean that's just satanic or demonic. And
right.
In the conservative world, they say, everything's satanic and demonic. For me, not even the people, even the people that are pro-choice believe there should be a limit. So it's just very weird that our politicians want it up into birth even after.
Democrats. All right, let's read some more. Kelly DeFrench says crazy Kamala bailed out people who committed actual severe crimes, but spent her entire career putting away people who committed misdemeanors, if that. That's right.
Yeah, 3 strikes. And there was a guy, that had 2 felony convictions and then got a misdemeanor, and it was their 3rd strike and spent their life in prison.
Wow. Raymond Laura says, do you think AOC is a decent person that's being influenced to push specific policies, and it has created a character we've seen? Since Alex confronted AOC with Latina and she never corrected him with Latinx, she just lashed out at her handlers. I think AOC is like an NPC, right? I think she's just blindly bouncing between whatever, whatever gets her power. That's it. That's why she gave you a peace sign. So let's do a selfie and peace sign. And then later came out saying, I was going to deck him. It's like, why don't you give him a peace sign and waved and then left?
Well, the reason why is all these politicians are so emboldened to their funding. And so, like I said, there have people that make the decisions for them, basically. And she knows, whose side she's on. So she's bought and sold like toilet paper at Walmart, in my opinion.
All right. Abyss Mom says, Tim, you have talked about being as big as the Daily Wire one day, and I sincerely hope that happens. Any plans for kid content? I just want kid stuff. My kids asked questions spawned from ads from June. We actually do. We started with Chicken City, and we have those silly Chicken City cartoons. And so we definitely want to make content that is more kid-friendly and educational. We have a plan for local community building, and we actually are working on a kids show right now. It's preliminary. We have like merch planned, and I think it'll be a huge success and a lot of fun. And that'll be an age range of 5 to 9 or whatever. Just like content. People work for us, our parents. They've talked about how they really just don't like the stuff that's being put out for kids these days, and we need to make stuff. That's why the Daily Wire is doing it. That's why we want to do it. And it's also a great market opportunity. A wholesome family brand for kids is an excellent opportunity to expand the business. We want to take it, and we want to make the world a better place. I often talk about how inspiring kids is the key to winning the future, so that's something we definitely have plans for. I can't say anything crazy like the Daily Wire committing $100 million to it. But I can say we got a show in the works that we're really excited for. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. Yeah, it'll be great. It'll be great. Krang says Alex Stein is a thick boy. Big politics on him.
I had him thick. I'm thick. Primetime 99 is a plant-based pimp. So I basically eat spaghetti and cheese pizza for all my meals.
Vegetarian.
Yeah, vegetarian and plant-based, dog. Plant-based.
Grow your
plant-based
own
diet.
Yeah, but it's not very healthy because I have a limited option. So like I said, cheese pizza, not the same cheese pizza Jeffrey Epstein ate. But yes, cheese pizza is my main diet.
Sterling Wilson III says, please watch Sword Art Online, the metaverse scenario-ish y'all talking about. I've heard about it. You talked about it before.
I've seen it. It's actually very good and worth watching. At least the first couple seasons. I felt like it started to get a little repetitive personally after like the 6th or 7th episode. But incredible theme. Definitely worth checking out if you haven't seen it yet. Sword Art Online.
Sam says there's some data out of Sweden and the U.S. that suggests SSRIs may cause homicidal ideation in young men ages 14 to 24, between 1% and 3%, up to 3 months. Wow. I remember I was going to say something about that, but I wasn't entirely sure. That it's not just about suicidal ideation, it's about homicidal. Like it makes people like nuts and want to, hurt
a lot of these
people.
mass shootings, I think they call them public suicides. People refer to them as, because a lot of times the shooter loses their life.
And they want to take people out with them because they want to kill themselves.
I wonder if these first person shooter games.
You can't say that?
No. I'm reading a super chat.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. What did you say? Wow, I didn't hear you.
I just said some people want to kill themselves, but I don't know if that's illegal.
Oh, no. Illegal.
Well,
I mean, we don't want people to do anything.
No,
like that,
obviously not. No.
All right, Samuel. This is why I said, oh man. Samuel Nitsky says, first super chat ever. Tim has clearly never had a double fish fillet with extra tartar. I'll quadruple the super chat if Tim tries one on the next IRL. Best show, NA.
And during Lent, the fish fillet is one of the most popular sandwiches in America. Yeah, because people don't eat meat. It's super, and it's delicious. I don't eat it anymore, but delicious.
The fish fillet is the one thing I would say, okay, that is good.
See, you found something.
That's true.
Wow, we found something that Tim likes.
Fish.
You'll eat that and not a sausage McGriddle.
No
Seriously?
way.
The fillet of fish is delicious.
Yeah, and I think it's made of something called like hokey. I think it is.
I think that is
hokey.
Yeah, Tim's a smart man.
That's the fish kind.
Yeah, it's a bony, nasty fish, a garbage fish that nobody wants to eat.
Oh, what a surprise!
Did you look it up? Is that what the hokey?
I'm checking it out.
Is
now.
it
the hokey fish inside your fish o fillet?
Boom!
Yep.
How did I know that?
Fish.
The blue
I got a
grenadier.
weird memory.
Yeah, why do you have those facts in your brain?
I just read all day, every day, nonstop for like a decade. It's insane.
The blue hake, the blue grenadier, the New Zealand whiptail or whiptail hake.
It's like a
hokey.
Hokey. So, it's like a bony fish that like if you were to catch on its own, it's not really enough. But when you catch a huge amount of them and you grind them up into a paste
with the bones.
I think, yeah.
Healthy.
But it's a paste.
Good
You know, it's
for your
like,
digestion.
it really is. I mean, a lot of collagen in the fish bones, so it's good for you.
Okay.
The fillet of fish is good. I gotta hand it to
We
that.
found something.
We found something. There's our common ground. Our treaty, as it were. We can go to McDonald's and I'll get the fillet of fish.
Yeah, I love the fillet of fish.
Yeah, a double fillet of fish got cheese on it, and the
Tartar
tartar sauce
sauce.
is good.
That's
Well,
pretty
Tim,
good.
and I hope you don't get mad
There
at me
you go.
for saying this. And, obviously Tim is incredibly well known and he is a celebrity, obviously. And Tim said one of the most terrible things I've ever heard is that Tim can not really go to a restaurant anymore. That makes me...
Oh, yeah.
I just hate
Sad.
that. I mean, I'm just saying that is,
Sad.
like, honest to God, that is just really sad because, I think there's nothing bigger than a fat American culture is eating at a restaurant. I mean, that's like
Well-
literally part of our culture and you're missing out. It makes me sad.
People. I mean, I go out to eat. You
Yeah.
got to be careful. People don't understand, like, there's no cameras back there, and there's no way to prove if someone puts like bleach in your food.
Yeah.
They could. You could get really, really sick. You wouldn't know why. And they're not going to run a test on it. People don't understand this. You go to the hospital for stuff, and they're not going to be like, "Is there bleach in the system?" There's no reason. If there's no reason to suspect it, they won't actually test for it, and then they won't know. And then they'll be like, "We'll give you fluids and try and get you better." And then, even if the only place you ate was that one restaurant you got sick, how do you even prove the person there was some lunatic who was actually trying to ruin your food or get you sick? Donald Trump, when he goes out, this is why he does fast food so often, because it's pre-made, so no one tampers with it, and he knows that. And so when I was reading about Kavanaugh eating at the Mortons, I was like, did security go into the kitchen and watch the food get made?
Well, Morton's is a pretty classy restaurant.
Doesn't matter.
I know. I'm not arguing on that.
You think
I mean,
you think the person in the kitchen isn't going to be sympathetic to the left or hate?
Well,
it doesn't matter.
Ian might like this one, but this is a little secret for the kids out there. And obviously, drugs are the worst thing ever. But the kitchen culture is the biggest, druggiest, world there is. I'm just saying, like
Stony.
Exactly. I'm just saying the kitchen culture, and I think Anthony Bourdain, kind of exposed that.
Diners are fine. You ever go to the diner where you watch them on the grill right there on the spot?
Yeah.
I can go there and
Waffle
I can
House,
eat.
yeah.
But the problem is, if I go to an area that's heavy blue, and people recognize me, and then I just say, "I trust you with what I'm going to put my body right now," they could, at the worst, spit in it. Yeah. Or I should say, at the least, if they're angry with me and they don't like me, spit in it, and there's no way I'll know, and I'll eat it. Or they can do something seriously bad, like biologically tamper with it, and there's no way to prove it. And I've gotten sick eating out before, and it's like I've had people recognize me. I've had issues at restaurants with like, okay, I probably shouldn't eat here. There's places where you can see the ideological stuff on their walls. I've gotten emails from people being like, "Hey, watch out! The people at this restaurant know who you are," and it's like, okay, we got to take that seriously now. It's like people. We've gotten swatted so many times. I've gotten death threats enough where you get to a point where you literally can't just go to a restaurant, sit down, and be like, "I'd like the wings, please." Can't do it.
That's a harsh reality.
You got to do weird things like have someone order the wings for you, sit down, and then I can walk in and sit down and eat it.
The price of fame, folks.
It's not just
easy.
it's not just about fame. It's about
age-old.
the level of violence in this country right now, and the fact that there are people who, like a guy punched Jack Posobiec in front of police, and then they all lied about it. So, these are things people have to consider.
Well, let's consider this. Did Amber Heard poop in Johnny Depp's bed?
Oh, I guess she did.
It was the dog.
Oh, is that what she said? It was the dog?
That was the dog.
We're gonna read a bit more because we argued too much about the moon. So
I know. I feel like we got. See, I'm all about the vibrational energy, and I kind of brought it down. And
No, it was fun. It was fun.
Okay,
It's like a slingshot.
I just want to make sure we read some more super chats. Alexander Nelson says, "My in-laws are ranchers in North Dakota, and the beef we bought from them recently is like nothing we've experienced from any grocery store. In the end, it's cheaper to buy in bulk as well. Check them out at Dakota Angus LLC. Not sure if they deliver, but it's worth a trip. We get a lot of farm fresh meat. Drive up to a local farm. You walk right up, pop open the freezer, grab out a big chunk of fresh farm beef, pay for it, bring it back and eat it.
Well, yeah, you can buy like half the cow. That's a big deal in Texas, where
Yep.
you just buy the cow, and so
We have so many chickens right now. What do we have? Like 30 something chickens.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, and they're all screaming.
tons of eggs, big eggs too.
Yeah, we get a crazy amount of eggs. It's so awesome.
I'm going to eat some of those tomorrow.
The good news is for those that follow Chicken City, Sarah is nearly all recovered.
Excellent.
She got really sick. She went to the vet. They gave her fluids and antibiotics, and she made it.
Wow.
Yeah, she had some kind of chicken infection.
I think I had the same thing, but it was just monkeypox.
Monkeypox.
Oh, did you hear
Where'd you
San
get that?
Francisco?
What? Yeah, I was just hanging out at Pride. It's not a big
I
deal.
see.
I saw an article that was like San Francisco at risk of monkeypox. I'm like, is it because of the poop in the streets?
No.
What's
No,
causing
No,
it?
that's Pelosi likes
because
that.
Different.
It's already been officially reported. It's being transmitted mostly among gay men.
Different vector, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And guys, I want to say this. I just want to thank you, Nancy Pelosi, because did you see, her jugs, that she's actually going to end the baby formula crisis with her own breasts.
Selfless.
They're so big. A lot of milk.
We have 2 super chats I want to read back to back. OMG Puppies says, is this guy trolling Tim or does he really believe this? And then Armchair Quarterback says, Alex is right. Space is a hoax. Pick your poison.
Pick your poison, guys, either or. And like I said, I'm not a role model. Do not believe me. Do your own independent research. So, I'm like Charles Barkley in the 80s. I ain't no role model, dog.
Just ask.
Athrun Zala says, the greatest evidence that the moon landing was not faked is Russia. It was the Cold War and space race. If Russia thought for one instant that America had faked it, they would have let the world know. Or they would have, I'm surprised they didn't even they'd accuse it anyway. They should have just tried to say it.
Well, it might have started a war. There's a reason why it was a Cold War that, we never had.
All right. We'll grab some more super
I see
chats.
Ian's face, because it's a touchy subject, guys, because you're talking about geopolitical conflict, and we live in a world where we don't necessarily know the truth. There is declassified levels of information.
Neil Strong says, I'm really trying to get others to join us and listen to you, but man, it's a breath of fresh air when I listen to a podcast like tonight. JRE compromised, it seems. I don't think Joe Rogan's compromised. I think Joe Rogan is what Joe Rogan's always been. He's a discerning, regular guy who isn't a culture warrior. I think people need to understand, we are culture warriors here. We are very concerned about culture. We want to influence it. We directly say that. We challenge it. We pay to expand upon it. And Joe Rogan's a comedian who wants to hang out with his friends and have interesting conversations, who gets pulled into these things because he just will tell the truth when it comes to certain news stories. But you can't expect him to be a journalist and dig up all of the facts and then challenge them, the way we do.
Well, he used to be a little more combative. But what do you think about him saying he didn't want to have Trump on? I agree. I don't believe he wanted to have Trump on. But do you think Trump wanted to come on?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think Joe basically admitted that Trump would do really, really well on his show, and it would help him.
Yeah.
Joe Biden on Rogan would hurt Biden tremendously. Donald Trump on Rogan would help him tremendously. Joe said that. So for whatever reason Joe thinks would help him, Yep. All right. Let's see. Brandon Hill says, Alex, you are misreading the context in Obama's speech. It was post-space shuttle era, meaning not currently able, not that we never did.
Yeah, not currently able. So I'm saying the technology went backwards. We were able to go in 1969 through 1972. And I just compare a simple, comparison. You can say apples and oranges. You look at a 1969 Lincoln, and you compare it to a 2022 Lincoln Navigator. The technology did not go backwards in that sense.
What if we needed to store data on a magnetic strip in a computer?
Well, we actually deleted all the telemetry data, and they said that we needed it for further missions. But
no, what I mean is let's say right now there's a circumstance in which we're we want to use tape drives.
Yeah, it's more reliable than an EMP blast.
We don't have factories that can make them right now, do we? They've all shut down the production on tape decks for computers because it was considered inferior, or we didn't have a reason to use it, or we found other means, or like Beta and VHS. The point is, there's probably factories out there that could quickly start producing tape drives for computers because it's not relatively difficult, but it would be really expensive. You'd have to fund it, finance it, and create the factory to do it, and that's old technology. So there's older stuff that we just stopped doing, and now we're maybe we should rebuild that.
Well, they admit that we went to the moon with technology less than a TI-83 calculator. You agree with that, right?
Yeah, of course.
So we didn't have computers, but now through Zoom, you can literally talk to people across the world instantly.
Different tech.
I know, but I'm just saying, the technology that they had able to call Richard Nixon from the surface of the moon with a 3-second delay, to me, I just think that, and then it took, how many years, 60 years for us to get Zoom. It's just that timeline for me, I don't agree with that.
Well, but Zoom is very different from radio. Radio, it was very simple. In fact, hacker buddies of mine.
To call 237,000 miles away on the moon
using radio?
Yeah.
Yeah. There are people who bounce.
But you saw Nixon on a landline talking to the astronauts. You've seen that, right?
Look, man.
I know. I don't want to keep talking about it. I know. It's just
I love Nixon.
I think,
but Nixon is the most honest president ever. So
there are hackers who are trying to take over satellites who want to bounce signals off the moon. There was a project that I was in. We were doing a brainstorming session where we wanted to use infrared laser pulsed into clouds that could only be detectable by an optical device, so that you could translate the flicker of it into low-grade data signals or audio. yeah, there's really easy rudimentary light and radio wave based technology that is very different from encoding and decoding bits and streaming it over, hard lines and things like that. But I digress. We'll just read a couple more here. And what's what we got? Reggae Vibe says, I think a civil war would look like War Inc. with John Cusack, where corporations are literally fighting and funding the war along ideological lines. That's basically been the case forever. Like the Civil War in the United States, there were people funding, either side, hoping for a victory on, for whatever. All right. We'll grab one more. What do we got? Someone mentioning hollow points. Let's see.
Oh, and did you know you can make a gun vlog on YouTube, but if you have a live stream with a gun in it, it
Yes.
immediately gets canceled. Yeah.
You can't handle guns on a live stream, and you can only handle guns in approved environment. So if you have a gun channel and you're on a range, you're fine. If you have a gun channel and you're in a bedroom, you're banned.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. I knew it had to be approved, but I didn't know. I figured maybe a bedroom you could display the gun. But you're talking about you can't even really display it in a private room, basically?
All right.
Is that what you were saying, Tim? Can you display a gun in a private room?
Yes.
Okay.
But
you can't handle it.
Can't handle it. Okay.
Yeah. Because like Crowder had the gun
can't
on his
handle
desk.
it.
Oh, yeah. Right.
And there's like decorative stuff and things like that.
Gosh, Crowder really pushes the limit, right? I mean,
It was a holster.
I know.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's wild.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. The Science Change says there were 6 crewed, as in manned, U.S. landings between 1969 and 1972, and numerous uncrewed landings. China also landed something on the moon recently. I mean, the question is did we land the rover on Mars? Did we land? What was the big thing? The Volkswagen-sized things we landed on Mars was a huge deal, and it was really scary because the huge delay between Earth and Mars for a radio signal.
Rover?
Yeah, it was the Curiosity maybe. Or something.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of stuff, but or whatever. Hey, you know what? We're gonna wrap it up. It's Friday night, my friends. If you haven't already, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, share the show if you really like it, and become a member at timcast.com to watch all of the awesome shows we had this week. The Dave Landau one, we're really hyping up because he's such a funny guy and it was so good. So become a member, check that out. We could really use your support. We want to expand and make new shows. We're setting up venues. We're doing public events. We're going to do skate contests. All this culture and community building we're really excited about, and it's all thanks to you. So you can follow the show at Timcast IRL. You can follow me at Timcast. Alex, you want to shout anything out?
It's Primetime 99. Guys, please follow my Alex Stein channel. I'm almost to 200K subs. So if you guys could push me over the top, I would be honored and delighted. And I want to say, Tim, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate, we did a little debate, but you were a little mad about the way I treated AOC. But at the end of the day, it opened the door just like the Capitol Police. So you never know in the culture war what is going to take to be the domino that knocks down the bigger dominoes. So we got to keep fighting. I appreciate you fighting on the front lines.
Right on.
If you want to see me more often, you should go find me on Instagram or WeChat at Closer Kitty. Or you can go subscribe to Pop Culture Crisis on YouTube. We go live at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, noon Pacific Time every weekday, and we talk about entertainment news and movies and celebrity gossip. So come join us.
You're going to want to watch Pop Culture Crisis from today. If you haven't seen it yet, I was on the episode. It was fantastic. It went 2 hours. Largest super chat day, I think. Maybe
3 crisis parties.
Wow.
That's
Obliteratingly
great.
awesome.
Great.
First time.
Check out Cast Castle because the action is hot. You're going to want to see that video and see who I really am not.
It was funny because the comments were like, this video made me actually like Ian.
Yep, well, it's unstoppable. If you're in the way, you're going to capitulate like me. Alex, I love you, man. Good
I
to
love
see
you, Ian.
dude.
It was a pleasure.
Great to see you in
and
person.
Lydia, come on, guys. This was a good.
Let's
give it up
this
for
was
Lydia.
a fun show. A little,
It's a good
hopefully,
time,
a little
yeah.
controversial. The people at home. It's a little divisive, but sometimes in this, we got to kind of, the
It's
people.
like clapping. It doesn't always feel good, It kind of stings a little bit.
Yeah,
do it,
but
yeah.
that makes it entertaining. So
Correct. My personal theory is that Canada is not real, but that is an argument for a different
I
night.
agree.
I know. We'll get into that later. No, I'm just kidding. That's not a big deal. You guys, we are huge stands of Pop Culture Crisis over here. You guys should follow them. Brett works his butt off to get that show lined up, and Mary is great over there as well. As you know, politics is downstream of culture, so Pop Culture Crisis first, then Timcast IRL in the evening. You guys can follow me on Twitter and minds.com at sourpatchlits, as well as sourpatchlits.me.
We will see you all over at timcast.com. Well, actually, you will see us there because we're not doing the show tonight, but also check out Cast Castle, and we'll see you all on Monday. Thanks for hanging out.
Bye, guys.